This is exclusively dating advice. For those who don't know the meme, because this has been around for a long time, I have a video called Finding Your Team on YouTube, which has been out since December of 2020. And at the beginning of that video, I mention that, in the process of forming a team, in the process of developing the networking, the interpersonal relationships, a lot of the things that you need to know to find your people on a Splatoon team are really similar to the kinds of things you need to learn to do well at dating. And so it became kind of a running gag through this video that whenever I said something that was applicable in more places, I would just say, this is also dating advice. Well, that kind of got picked up by a lot of people. And now, basically, every single video that I put out, you'll see comments to the effect of, "Oh, this is also dating advice because if you're feeling insecurity, you just get behind a wall and take cover from it, and make sure to pie the corner as you come out and return fire to it. Yeah, it's dating advice. Yeah, nailed it." And so in fact, it's gone so far that at this point it's gone full circle to the point where people will take things that I just explicitly say as life advice or dating advice, and they try to turn them back into Splatoon advice. That's how meta this whole thing has gotten at this point. Very long time meme, but I figure, I've been giving like legitimate dating advice or life advice in so many of these videos. And with Valentine's Day coming up, why not just like actually make a thing about dating advice? I've made one that's on advice for school, and that seemed to go over pretty well. People seem to like that. Why not just make an entire stream on dating advice? So why trust me for this dating advice? Because I'm a competitive Splatoon player. I know what it's like to go through all of that. Why should you trust me on anything relating to dating? By the way, this game was closer to being a real thing than you probably think. This was made by Cookie from the Grillers, and the announcement video itself was a work of art. But basically, here are my qualifications. The biggest one by far is that I have lived longer than a lot of you, and I have had a lot of chances to royally fuck things up. I have screwed up more than most of you have had time to in your lives. And that means that I've learned a lot of things. Now, this isn't just exclusively that I have screwed up. I've also happened to be around a lot of other people who have also been screwing up simultaneously, concurrently with me. And some of those people have different experiences from me. So I get to learn from when they screw up. I have, for example, believe it or not, talked to women before. And so in doing that, thanks to the magic of conversation, I've been able to learn what it is that they screwed up. And I've been able to kind of incorporate some of those ideas into what I'm going to be talking about here. It's a wonderful world we live in where we can communicate with each other. It's a really powerful thing. Now, I will not claim that I am any kind of, I'm any kind of dating expert. Got a little bit ahead of myself there, I guess. That registered as a double tap. I am not a dating advice coach. I am not, someone who has professionally studied this. I have got a minor in psychology, and a lot of that stuff actually will come out here. There are a couple of pieces that I would not feel anywhere near as comfortable talking about if it were not for the fact that I had learned about them in an academic setting. But I am a straight dude. I have been relatively mentally healthy in my life. I've had some moments where things were a little rough, but definitely been very fortunate on that front. And I am not yet happily married. So if, for example, it sounds like my advice skews towards men and boys, that is because, hi, yes, that is me. I am a man and have been a boy before. I've learned more things about people like me then I have learned about other people, because, you know, I'm the one who has needed to use them. So I am sorry that I'm not going to know as much about what, you know, a bunch of other people will say. But I think I have a good amount for any different kind of person that I can share from my experience. Maybe it's new, maybe it's not, but hopefully it will be interesting either way. And like I said, I'm not yet happily married. Okay, I'm not married at all. Fine. I see you, chat. Silly. But so the point is, I haven't beaten the game yet, all right? I haven't quite seen all the way to the end of it, but I've seen a lot. And I think that I still can comment on the things that I'm going to comment on with some amount of understanding. One last disclaimer before we get started here, and this one's pretty important. There will be a couple moments in this stream where we will be going over some sensitive subjects. I'm not going to go into, like, gory detail. This isn't going to be a sex ed stream. We're not going to be talking about accounts of, like, violence or anything like that, but we will be talking about a couple of topics, like, pertaining to body image, that can be triggering to some people. I will make sure to have visible content warnings on screen when that kind of section is happening, and I will, you know, preface it verbally before that happens. But just be aware that a couple of those topics are coming for a couple of slides, and that's going to be it. All right. So we'll start with the presentation. This is going to be, like, stuff that I've got pre-prepared. There will actually be some of the questions that were asked on the Google form that I'll build into this presentation, because there are sections of the presentation where I just will answer that question pretty directly, and it'll be the best way for me to go about it. But then there are also some questions that I will answer at the end. I will not be answering all of the questions because there were 430 of them. And that's just the ones that were asked in good faith, mind you. Forget the memes and the other crap that people threw in there. And so it's like 17 pages of bulleted list in, like, 11-point font. But a lot of them trend towards some patterns, and so I think I can knock a lot of them out all in, like, a few slides. Let's start by talking about one of the most important subjects that you can talk about when it comes to dating advice, and that is consent. Consent is the other person saying that they are okay with whatever is happening. This does not have to just mean, you know, in terms of, like, sexual stuff, intimate stuff. If you do not have consent to do what you are doing with someone else, you are doing them harm. They do not owe you anything romantic ever. They do not ever owe you anything of that nature. They don't owe you not just something like sex. They don't owe you a kiss. They do not owe you a phone call. They do not owe you anything if they are not enthusiastically willing to give that thing to you. Show anyone that you're going to be in any kind of relationship with early on that you care about and respect their right to give consent. Little things like just asking them if you're okay with something really simple that you're doing in the conversation with them is awesome. Foreground that that is something that you're going to keep doing so that you can make people comfortable being around you and you're not scaring them by making them feel like they might get, like, pressured into something they don't want to do. Never, ever, ever push someone to give you consent for something. It's not really them giving permission if you needled them and poked them and jabbed them until they gave it to you. That's not really consent. Just keep it comfy. Are they cool with it? Are they not? Trust them when they say so, the first time they say it, and every time that they say anything new. You do not have consent in the following situations. Number one, you are in a significant position of authority over them. Now, this doesn't mean that there can't ever be like any sort of like expert or power dynamic in the couple at all. Otherwise, like, how would someone like a judge or a police officer ever be able to be in a relationship, right? If they're going to have legal authority and their partner isn't, like, okay, it's not like just them being in that position of authority at all is a problem. But, for example, if a police officer who is in uniform and on duty has a gun strapped to his leg is starting to hit on someone, that's not okay. Because they are in a position of authority. They have a gun, and they're allowed to use that gun. This is something that will scare someone, make them feel like, I should probably just say yes because this is someone who has the ability to use force. You don't mess with that kind of a situation. You are in a position of authority. Just save it for when you're off duty or something like that. So if you're, a leader of some kind and this is your subordinate, employee and employer, that sort of dynamic, again, just totally inappropriate. Never go there. You have deceived them to get consent. This is something that's actually happened to a friend of mine. There's a guy, and girl is approaching him, kind of, twisting her finger through her hair, kind of giving him the eye, kind of being like, hey there, you're kind of cute. Want to come back to my place? Winky face devil emoji. And the guy is like, hey, sorry, I've got a girlfriend. It wouldn't be okay. And she, takes it like a champ. She's like, oh, okay, well, lucky girl. Catch you next time. Hope you have a nice night, kind of thing. But then the guy, goes home that night, and he's kind of like, man, I kind of want to see where that would have gone. And so he sees them again later, later that week, and goes, hey, we broke up. When they didn't. Now, she is giving consent only because a false premise has been created there. She would not consent to whatever happens next if he had told her the truth. So that's still not informed consent. That's not real. That doesn't count. That's still not okay. That's really, really messed up. You do not do that. Finally, they're inebriated. So hopefully this isn't happening at like age 14 or something like that. But so hopefully this doesn't apply to all of my audience. But you get to, a certain age, some parties that you go off to, they're probably going to involve some kind of substance which would intoxicate someone. And sure, if someone's had like one beer, they're probably not going to be in any kind of state that's like that mentally different from how they usually are. But if they're behaving a little differently, if they're being a little more forward, if they're looking kind of tipsy, if they're, losing their balance or something like that sort of state, they're not in the same state of mind that they would be if they were sober. And it's a very predatory thing to try and use that state to get someone to give you something that they wouldn't normally give you. So you absolutely do not engage in that sort of activity with someone who is in that kind of a state of inebriation. A line, if you need one, is if you're still feeling the same way in the morning when you're sober, absolutely hit me up. But right now, you've had a little too much to drink. That's a pretty graceful way to excuse yourself out of that situation. Change the wording as you will. But that's sort of the vibe that you want to give off for that. All right. One last thing on consent. This is a useful metaphor, I think, it helped explain it for or analogy, I guess you could say. Let's say that you want to borrow someone's car, and the first time you ask, they're totally cool with it. They let you borrow the car. You go off. You do what you need to do with the car. You bring it back. Everything is good. Second time, you come back and ask to borrow the car. Now, you ask a second time. You don't just say, well, they were cool with it the first time, so they'll be cool with it this time. I can just take the keys. If you haven't actually had that conversation with them that, hey, yeah, just take the keys anytime you want, then no, you cannot just take the car. That is stealing their car. And realistically, you're probably going to have to ask every time because you don't know what their schedule is on that day, and maybe they need the car. Maybe they're just not as comfortable with you taking their car anymore, and after a little while, they stop giving you the car. Taking the car when they haven't explicitly given you permission to take the car, no matter how many times they've given it before, whatever the circumstances were before, if they say no and you take their car, you are stealing their car. Don't steal their car. That's a crime. Okay. So, let's move on to a lighter topic, gender roles. Wait a minute. Crap. Okay. This is a little bit lighter, but not by much, because there's a lot bound up in this, and there's really too much for me to say in one PowerPoint. This is its own course of study at a university. Like, you could just spend 4 years studying this and not get that deep into the depth that is this topic. But there are a few things that I want to bring up that I think have really helped me with understanding myself and understanding my place in the world and helping to come to a better relationship with other people by understanding those things. So, gender roles are basically the way that we are taught to be before we have the critical thinking skills to question them. These are things we are taught about, say, what boys do and what girls do, or what men and women do, what love looks like, before we've ever felt those feelings ourselves, before we've ever been put in those situations, while we've still been sheltered from the rest of the world. And we get a lot of this through media. We also get a lot of this through, the expectations that are put on us by the people around us. But I think one really, really good, succinct encapsulation of how much of this can be a mess. There's a great encapsulation of that in the story of Sleeping Beauty. Really, really common, lasting, enduring story in our culture. And there's this animated version that gets shown to children all the time from an old Disney movie. And I want to break this down a little bit. Thank you so much for the resub, Jupiter Saturn. Thank you so much. They say, once upon a time, I saw a protest sign that said, pizza rolls, not gender roles, and I fully backed that statement. Yeah. So, let's take a look at the dynamic here. First of all, quick plot synopsis for maybe someone who doesn't know the story. So, you've got Sleeping Beauty over here. I think her name is it Belle? I don't remember. Generic damsel in distress woman. So generic damsel in distress woman is 16 years old or something, and she's just fallen in love with the prince. And the problem is, she's just fallen in love with this fella here on the left who's not a prince. That's an important detail. And she is betrothed to a prince for, being royalty reasons. But then evil magic woman Maleficent decides that she wants damsel in distress woman to die for, I don't know, reasons. And so she casts a magic spell on her, and her fairy godmother people are only just barely able to dilute that spell enough that instead of dying, she's put into a very deep sleep that can only be awakened by true love's first kiss. Well, thankfully for her, she just fell in love with a dude the day before this happens. Really convenient. Also really convenient that such magic exists, that you can just kind of know someone's true love. Aurora, thank you. So she gets put under, anesthetic, magical anesthetic for a little while. With a nice little flower. She's looking pretty. She's not in some uncomfortable position when she fell over like that. She's, her hair curls in just the right way. They honestly did a really, really good job putting her down that way. But, so she's in that state, and dude over here needs to get to her, to kiss her, to save her. And to do that, he has to fight a dragon, and so heroic battle ensues, slays the dragon, gets the girl. So, what do we get from this? So, princes, which is what the men are supposed to be, of course, are supposed to pursue strength and achievement, attractiveness, so that they can make the girl fall in love with them and then do something to impress her. Finding a woman who will smooch you is a test that you can pass. It's a feat to accomplish. It's a heroic thing to do. It's achievement unlocked in a single-player game. For the princesses, so again, Aurora looking absolutely damsel-like there, their goal is to pursue being pursued by being prettier than all the other girls and setting up a life for both of you that's more enjoyable than it would have been if he had done all of his heroic daring do to go after the other girls. So this creates more than a few problems. First of all, I haven't talked about queer people yet. What are they supposed to do exactly? We don't tell them very well. And we're working on this. This is getting better. This is, you know, an old example of how this sort of thing manifests in culture, but we're still getting there. This is something, you know, it's a critical theory, something that I am probably going to butcher a little bit, so I apologize to the academics in the audience, but there is a concept called queer time. The basic gist of it is that heterosexual people, you know, the people that you're expected to be based on the old movies, they get these really defined timelines of how they're supposed to develop, who they're supposed to be at what point in time. You know, at this point you're dating, at this point you're, you know, getting into more physical relationships, at this point you're getting into more romantic relationships and really figuring out who you want to be with, at this point you're married, and at this point you're growing old together and looking really cute in, you know, stock photos or something. And for queer people, sometimes they can follow that timeline, but other times, maybe they didn't even really figure out what their orientation was until they were like 25 years old. So imagine, like, you know, maybe you figure out your, you know, sexuality in puberty. Imagine going through that realization, but like that much later. It's kind of like that a little bit. There's just a lot more fluidity, a lot more flexibility in the way that people develop romantically as people. And so there's not a lot of definition like that for those people. And sometimes that can be a blessing, and then they get to forge their own path and just do whatever works for them. And that's healthy, because everything that they pick is handpicked for them. But it also means that other people may not know how to interact with them. They may not know how to interact with other people. It creates some confusion and some other stuff like that. So again, representation, very important for reasons such as those. But let's just even go back to the premise we've got here, that we're only really caring about men and women, and all of them are heterosexual, and we don't even have to worry about any of that complexity. Even then, we've got some really ugly problems that come out of this stuff. First of all, remember what I said about this being a single-player game? This is achievement unlocked. Just slay the dragon, then you win. And when you win, you get the girl. Think about how much interaction Mario has with Princess Peach in any one of those games where he's actually going through castles to try and rescue her. He sees her at the very beginning, he does the thing, and then she smooches him on the nose, and that's the entire relationship. That's all he's ever done with Princess Peach. Well, how is he supposed to learn who she is as a person during all of that? How does he know that he even likes her? There's not enough information there to go on. All he's really pursuing is this idea of achievement, of getting the girl, of, you know, a reward, basically, for what he's done. And that's not what you can found a relationship on. Men aren't also typically taught companionship, because you relate to other men in the sense that you are competing to be the best, to achieve more, to be more attractive than them. So when you try to go to them with your feelings, like, it's kind of hard to relate to that, because there's already sort of an antagonistic relationship between them. And women get the same kind of issue in that they're taught to compete for men's attention. They need to be prettier than the other girls so that the guy will, you know, storm their castle instead of storming somebody else's castle. So the competition side of those things is really gross and makes it more difficult for both sides to form friendships, though in my experience, women tend to be able to get over this a little bit better. They tend to have closer female friends a lot of the time than I find that men tend to have close male friends. That's just kind of a cultural issue at the moment, and that's something that we definitely should do some work to fix. But even so, you know, that kind of thing between two women can get mean, and that's not healthy for either of them. Finally, you have that, and this is by no means a final point. There are so many of these that we could go into, but these are the ones that I've found, I feel, have affected my life the most, that I've seen been most influential to others. Women's self-worth often becomes dependent on approval of others. It makes it so that you need somebody else to like you in order to do well. A dude can just go and achieve something a lot of the time, and he gets lauded for that achievement because that's a part of the gender role. But a lot of the time, a woman, to really get recognized, it's like, oh, you're so-and-so's girlfriend. Like, you get that a lot, and it's a little weird. Like, okay, but, like, what has she done? So we're still trying to get past that as a culture, too. And it doesn't help that marketing really preys on the insecurities that creates in women by their self-worth, again, being outside of their control. And that's something that there have had to be movements, cultural movements, to combat. So, this is going to turn into a pretty personal story real quick, but so this is a boy right here in this picture. Yes, it's a pigeon. No, this is not a Hey Toefl boyfriend advertisement. Let me explain. Boys are trained pretty early on, and maybe unintentionally, but like pretty systematically, not to learn to interact with girls very much. I remember when I was like 3 years old, like I'm in preschool, okay? Mind you, my conception of what like a girl was they have longer hair and wear skirts sometimes. That was about all I had. You call someone a black person, and I'm at this age, and I get confused because I look at them and I know my crayons, and I'm like, wait, they're not black though, they're brown. That's the level of understanding of the universe that I have at this point in time. And I'm playing with my friend, who happens to be a girl. We're building a tower out of blocks because that's fun, and we're 3, and that's a thing that 3-year-olds do. And some of the older kids, because this is it was like a mixed grade level school, and we're all hanging out after class waiting to get picked up by our parents. The older kids come in and they start snickering and giggling and pointing about how, ooh, I have a crush on her. Now, I've never heard this phrase before in my life. I don't know what it means to have a crush on someone. I'm 3. Again, I don't know what that stuff means. This is foreign vocabulary to me. I know that the word crush means to, like, squish something, but I don't know how that pertains to a person. Like, have a crush? To have a squish on the... What? What does that mean? So, I ask them what it means. Like, they go, hey, do you have a crush on her? And I'm like, what's a crush? And they're like, oh, he has a crush. This is not helping. This is not getting me anywhere. I don't have any information to work with. And this kind of just happens periodically over time, and it builds and builds. People, you know, it becomes a meme, you know, before we knew what an internet meme was. Like, this idea just spreads that everyone thinks I have a crush on this little girl that I'm a friend with. And I'm like, what does that mean? Please, somebody explain it to me. And nobody ever would. So I try eventually, just like anything I can, to get them to stop asking me about this, because it's starting to bother me. It's in the back of my mind whenever I'm playing with this girl that I'm going to get this kind of attention because they think I have a crush on her. And I don't know what that means, and I'm frustrated. Eventually, I'm just in the mood to say whatever will get them to stop. And so I try answering the question, no, I don't. And they're like, oh, that's exactly what he would say if he had a crush. And they just keep going. So I'm like, well, that didn't work. Let's try the other answer. Okay, maybe I do. And I immediately realized that I had said the wrong thing, because now I was getting bothered even more about it. And eventually it got so aggravating that I just stopped trying to be friends with her. it was easier for me at a certain point to not interact with her than it was to put up with that. It sucked. I didn't like that kind of attention. I didn't want everyone's eyes on me. I didn't want people to be laughing at me and me not to understand why it was happening. And I just kind of put up walls and stopped interacting with her as much. I would sometimes like just treat her a little bit worse deliberately to resolve the cognitive dissonance. And it sucks. Don't ever do that, first of all, to a young kid. Explain to them what you're saying, for the love of God. And also, don't make it weird that they're just interacting with a girl, because they will internalize that and decide, okay, it's not cool to be interacting with a girl. Fast forward to elementary school. And so now I've learned my lesson, right? I'm not supposed to have feelings about girls. I'm not supposed to like them. If I do, then I have a crush on them. And that's something that bugs the crap out of you for, you know, the rest of your days. So we're avoiding that. But I still, to this day, cannot remember whether I actually had any feelings about this girl in particular, because I would have repressed that so hard just so that I didn't have to put up with the crap that came with it. But there was another girl in my class, and people thought that I had a crush on her. And I was eager to disprove this. Again, like, I'm acting out so that I am not perceived as having this kind of feeling about it. And at one point, a buddy of mine is like, hey, she's going to be coming back from school right now. Let's, you know, hide behind the house and then throw snowballs at her as she walks by. And this I am gleefully on board with, because it lets me show that I don't really have any strong feelings. So why would I do that to her if I liked her, right? That wouldn't be nice. So this is perfect. This is a great opportunity for me to, you know, cleanse myself of these allegations of having a crush. So it starts off, and we throw a couple of snowballs, and at first she's just kind of annoyed. And then my buddy throws one, hits her in the face, and she starts crying, and it's not funny anymore. She shows up in class the next day. Turns out he hit her with an ice ball, and she has the first black eye that I had ever seen outside of a Looney Tunes cartoon. And when she came into class, the teacher asked, "Oh my God, what happened?" You know, this is probably a conversation that the teacher should have had more privately, so that, you know, if there were something going on, the teacher could have, you know, kept that a little bit less public. The kids wouldn't have to hear. But fortunately, it wasn't anything of that nature. She just points across the room to me and goes, "His friend did it." And the feeling of the whole class just turning to stare at me in that moment was so surreal. And I've never forgotten that moment. Fast forward a little bit more, and we get to middle school, where I'm actually getting involved with, like, maybe being a crush is a good thing all of a sudden. Right around age, like, 13, 14, you know, people hit puberty, and they get to the point where romantic relationships are starting to become a cool thing again. You know, they come back around the horn. They're retro, you know. You had them back then. They weren't cool then, but now they're cool again. Yeah, the culture of society as it goes. And I realize, as I start this relationship with someone, that, like, I don't get girls anymore. I used to back when I was 3. We played with blocks together. We talked about the same books. We were on the same page. But now I just have this idea of girl. I haven't talked to girls. If I talk to girls, people think I have crushes on them. And that wasn't cool up until now. So I was just thoroughly untrained. And rather than getting to know this human being that I was getting into a relationship with, I was just into the generic cultural idea of girl. I liked this right here. This woman on the right of the screen, if you can't see the mouse. Like, this general idea of what a girl is supposed to be. And what's dangerous about that is that in that state, if you want to, you know, get some kind of interaction from the girl, it's not going to be an empathetic choice. you're just going to get conditioned psychologically. And that's where our pigeon friend comes in. This is called a Skinner box. This is a behavioral psychology study where pigeons were taught to peck the correct button. And if they pecked the correct button, they would receive food. And you trained them to do this often enough, and then we could just determine, okay, here is what pigeons can see and what they can't see. This is, you know, you could figure out, like, according to this design that we see here, it looks like that pigeons can distinguish between certain colors. If the pigeon can see that this car is orange and they peck that and they get the food pellets out, there are a lot of experiments that you can design that way. And what we train boys to do when they don't empathize with girls is they just get trained to peck the right button. And they're not really thinking why they're pecking the right button. All they're thinking about is what that button does. It gets them smooches. Well, there are definitely some ways that you can get smooches that are not as ethical as the boys would even want them to be. They might just not even be thinking about how they're going about getting the smooches. They're just pecking the button. They're in love with the idea of girl and not the girl herself. They don't understand how to have this healthy relationship with this person. They're just kind of running like a hamster on a treadmill, figuring out whatever works to get them what they think they want, because they're not really in a relationship. They're just trying to get some kind of physical attention, an achievement unlocked. That's a pretty dangerous cycle if that goes too far and gets misused by the wrong people. This is a song that I feel really gets at the heart of what this is like as, you know, the other side of the equation is a heterosexual woman. The lyrics here in this particular part, they're describing, you know, man and a woman, they've met each other, and they're giddy like high school down by the pool at the hotel in the sea. She says, if I didn't know all the things you've done, I'd swear that I need you. I got the feeling, you got the feeling, but I know where you've been. I wish I would have met you when I was 17, before I've seen the things I've seen, before I learned to look behind the screen. I think we could have had a good time. The older you get, the more boy pigeons you have seen pecking at buttons, and the more that you have learned about their tricks, their buttons that they push, the way that they go about getting the things that they want, and you try to start and sift through and figure out who's actually interested in you and who's just interested in, you know, something surface level that they don't really understand. So, this kind of maturation, it happens on the other side too. Guys start to realize, oh wait, maybe there are other things that are more important than her just being cute. I remember in high school, there was someone that all of the guys, you know, that I talked to were like, oh yeah, this girl is definitely the hottest girl in school. And she happened to be in one of my classes, and I remember just kind of glancing over at her once and thinking about what guys had said about her and being like, she does look really good. But I've also heard the things that she says, and I don't feel like I would get along with her. And that moment of realization was really pivotal for me in learning that it's not always a matter of just how high value you are. It's a matter of compatibility. And that's our next subject here. So first of all, let's get rid of some silly things that people try to use to measure compatibility. There's a lot of, you can go to personality profiles, you know, love languages, horoscopes, things that you'd find in like a teen magazine that tell you whether you and someone else are meant to be. There are not just the 12 or 16 kinds of person that these sorts of systems prescribe. There are probably some individual aspects of all of these systems that are actually kind of useful to think about. Like love languages in particular, I don't hate that idea. The idea that some people want, say, physical touch more than they want someone to give them a gift. You know, a hug over bringing some roses home. It's good to know that about your partner. I would also say that that's just basic empathy, though, and that's not like, this is the type of person that you are. Turn to the second page of the cootie catcher right here and find your gangsta name in the magic 8-ball that you will reveal from within. Like, it's all about like the desire to see yourself represented in the thing. It's like those tweets you see someone put out where it's like, your birthday tells you what your anime name is. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really relate to anything. It's the Barnum effect. It's, if you tell someone something that is generally true for all people, but make it sound specific enough, they'll buy that is specifically because of this system that you knew that only because you are an int p, that you need X kind of attention. And you see that and you're like, whoa, it predicted that it's me, when like you could have said that thing you said about the int p about anybody else on this system and it also would have been true, and people don't realize that. There's generally, with any of these systems, not enough research right now to support that any of them will actually predict relationship success purely on the basis of whether someone is one of these things or another. If someone's willing to like respect your love language, if someone like cares about how you want to receive affection, then that's probably something that helps. Again, it's not that these are useless, but they shouldn't even really be the starting point for you to figure out who you're compatible with. Especially because this often isn't published scientifically. This often isn't something that someone who's studied this subject is coming up with. So be really careful how much you buy into these kinds of ideas. They can be fun for a read. You know, they can be fun to, you know, mess around with a little bit with your partner, maybe even laugh at together. But they're also, again, not something to base your understanding of relationships on. Something that's really important, you know, going back to the idea of compatibility, is that you don't want to attract everyone. You want to attract the right person. If you attract everyone, that's a nightmare, okay? Imagine being like some massively popular, attractive pop star, and you've already found the person that you're in love with. Think about how many other people are still going to hit on you and how exhausting that's going to be. Think about how many stalkers you're going to have who think they can do better than the guy that you're with, and now that person's in physical danger. Like, you don't want to be attractive to everybody on Earth. You want to be attractive to the right person. If you match with someone and then find out that there are like 17 red flags on the first date, that's not a great use of your time. What you actually want to do is use some of the information that you're putting out about yourself, whether that be IRL and the way you comport yourself, or on a dating app if that's the way you're looking for people. You want to put out some information that will actually filter people out, whittle them down. You want the people that you don't want to go on a date with to left swipe you. It'll save everyone's time, and it'll make it so that when you actually do, you know, get a match, it might actually be someone you're interested in. A little bit of self-disclosure is good. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we've got I like food and having fun. This is a thing I've seen on an actual dating profile bio. This tells the person nothing. This tells the person that you are either a human being or an alien who studied humans, figured out that they like food and having fun, and is trying to impersonate said human. That's about all you got from this. That's about all you know. Try to put a little bit more out there than just that. And trust, and this part is kind of hard for some people. I recognize that, you know, some people might get the idea, okay, I just need to put out the highest volume possible, you know, number of right swipes. Just right swipe everybody. Just let's just see who I match with at all. You've got to trust on this system that if you're working in earnest to be a better person for your own personal reasons, that there will be someone who is into you, someone who digs that, someone who you will find if you put yourself out there. That's a lot of trust that I am asking you to put in this, and I understand that. But it's important to get to that point. And just for evidence of this. I have, in the past, had someone tell me, who I was romantically interested in, that one of the things that they were attracted to about me was that I was better at a video game than they were. All right? That's a thing that has happened. Your niche interest isn't necessarily a weakness. Just because someone might not be into video games doesn't mean you can't find someone who is. Now, if the video game is all you have going for you, then, okay, maybe that's another issue, but that's not the problem. You've got to find the people who are like you or who want to be with you. But in order to do that, you're going to have to be a little bit selective sometimes. So, quick tip here for, because there's, the question of orientation comes into play. Don't attract everyone, attract the right person. Okay, so what if I happen to be a kind of person who's a very significant minority in the population? Maybe like 1 in every 50 or 1 in every 100 people. And the people that I'm into are also only 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 people. How do I make sure that the folks that I'm, trying to pursue are going to be among those people? Now, I am no expert on this subject. Like I said, I am straight. However, I've had the unfortunate luck of, on multiple occasions, being into someone and then finding out that they were only into women. And as such, I've picked up a couple of things. I won't say I'm an expert, but a few things to look out for that are coding, ways that people will broadcast to those who are in the know who they're into. And so if you are, for example, gay, and you're looking for a way to kind of test the waters and see, hey, is this person maybe gay as well, or are they just being friendly? I have a gay male friend who told me at one point, call something about them cute. Give a compliment with the word cute. Because straight guys, not super likely to call something that the other straight guys are doing, is doing cute. I think I messed up the verbs there, but you get what I mean. Maybe they'll do it as kind of like a little bit of a joke, but when it's a sincere compliment, you don't tend to see that. And so that might be a subtle way to cue someone in that that's the kind of attention you're looking for. So there are those kinds of things. I would say find somebody who knows this better than I do if you're looking for specifics. But know that I look at both of these two pictures and I feel pretty confident that these people are at least projecting the idea that they are lesbians. And so now I know maybe I shouldn't hit on those people because I'm not a lesbian. So hopefully that was at least a little helpful. Thank you so much for the sub, Nya Lily. Appreciate it. I talked about this once before, but I really want to hit home that there is someone for everyone. I think a lot of guys get the idea that they have to look like, Travis Kelce. They have to have the Viking beard. They have to have the perfect hair, the pretty blue eyes, the beautiful jawline, the muscular physique, that they got to look like that if they want to get someone's attention. And all the anger issues that comes with it, I guess. I don't know. Congrats on winning the Super Bowl, but that was not a good look with your coach. Anyway, I need everyone who thinks that they need to be this guy to realize that there are women and other man-likers, probably. I cannot confirm their identities because they're mostly online that I have seen, but who are into the Onceler or Sans Undertale. There are a lot of people who are into the dad bod and would thirst pretty strongly over someone who is like those people for whatever reasons they admire them. These are a lot of different types of people, and they don't all have to look like this to get attention. There is someone for every type, for every kind of person. As long as you're trying to project confidence, as long as you're trying to work on yourself and look good, there's someone. I got asked a question directly When do you accept the fact that you will never find love after numerous attempts? And I don't think that's true. I think if you're looking and you're working on yourself, you can find it. I do genuinely believe that. If you want more funny examples of these kind, I would recommend the YouTube rabbit hole of Google searching Tumblr sexy men. Very intriguing reading and amusing. Anyway, so picture your crush. Whoever it is, he said the line. Oh God, that was just someone's sleeper. What's it called? The thing that awakens the sleeper agent. Okay. Think about your crush. Get your crush in your head right now. Someone that you like or have liked, you know, something of that nature. And I want you to ask yourself the question, what do you like about your crush? Come up with an answer. I'll give you like a few seconds to really genuinely think about this. Come up with something. Also, happy birthday, Max. So, I am going to say something that may feel a little mean, may feel a little harsh. I do believe that this is true, though. If the only answer that you came up with about what you like about your crush is that they like me back, I'm going to tell you that you don't like them. You like the attention they're giving you. This is the kind of answer that you tend to get out of boy who is pecking at buttons to try and get smooches. And if your answer was that you like the way they look, then you like their looks. You don't like them for who they are as a person. What you're trying to think about here is what traits do you want from them? And that can kind of go towards telling you also what they like about you and what that tells you about their intentions. Do they want to end up like picture on the left with you? Or do they want to end up like picture on the right with you? Not as a slight on the attractiveness of these people at all. They're pretty good looking folks. But this is a little bit more steamy and a little bit more immediate. Whereas this is a little bit more companionate and a little bit more long term. For this, yeah, you know, maybe they only need to look good. For this, you better be pretty compatible with those people. So make sure that that's something that's on your mind. One last thing, though. On the topic of what do they like about you, really, seriously, think hard about it. What do they like about you? This is probably the thing that I object to the very most about the Twilight series. Edward Cullen is 104 years old canonically, and Bella, his love interest, is 17. This guy's been on the planet for 104 years, has been through high school, has, you know, experienced the world as it really works, the working world and everything, has gotten all these experiences. She's not out of high school yet. What would he see in her? They're just not at the same level of understanding and maturity. I'm mature for a 17-year-old. Okay, but you're not 104. I'm mature for a 17-year-old? Okay, date a 19-year-old then. But 104? Okay, there may be some problems with the laws of majority there. I don't remember exactly how that works. I don't think that would be a huge age gap, except that, well, the problem with the age gaps is that they're at different points of their lives. Like, you don't want someone who's in college with someone who's in high school. That's just, there's way more life experience that the person in college has with that. It might depend also on the country you're in and, like, what life circumstances you tend to be at different ages. But that's my general rule. Are they at the same place in life as me? Like, if we're both college students, we're pretty close. Like, a couple years in college, not that big of a deal. You know, 1 year in high school, probably not that big of a deal. Like a sophomore and a junior, I'm not looking sideways at that. But 104 and 17? Come on. Like, even 26 and 17 is pretty intense. Because again, 17-year-old still in high school, 26-year-old has probably been all the way through an undergraduate, program in college, if that's the route that they decided to take in their life, and they could be out in the working world after being an undergrad. So they could be two major life-changing steps ahead of this person. What do they see in this person? Why are they not pursuing someone who's closer to their life circumstances right now? You've got to scratch your head about that sort of thing and think, why are they interested in me in particular being where I am right now in my life? There was a situation that a classmate of mine went through where they got involved with one of my professors. And I don't want to get into the details of that story because they're pretty horrific. But suffice it to say that that situation ended very tragically. And I would not want anything of the sort for anybody, even my worst enemy. It was traumatic. It was awful. Don't let that sort of thing happen. Think very carefully, why would someone like this want to be cool to someone as young as me? Another way to think about it is, when I'm that many years older, that many years cooler, 17-year-old looking at a 26-year-old, when I'm 9 years older, am I still going to think that he's cool? Am I still going to feel like, am I going to be, if I was cool enough to be with him when I was 17, and now I just get cooler, 9 years cooler, am I still going to want to be with him when he's, a full-grown adult at this point already, and this is as cool as he's going to get? Am I not going to eclipse him? Am I not going to catch up? That could be a way to think about it that's a little bit, puts it in better perspective. So, I think we've talked enough about that there. Let's talk about how to be attractive. Whatever the hell that means. And thank you for the bits, Curious Harpy. Appreciate you. Okay, so something that's really, really important to understand that I think a lot of people get wrong is that if you get rejected, that does not mean that you are, less attractive, less valuable than someone else. I think a lot of people get this idea that, you're just where you are on the out of 10 scale, and that a 6 out of 10 will never pull an 8 out of 10. You're just doomed to only be among the 6 out of 10s in terms of, physical attractiveness. And that's because it's your value as a person. That's all you... But compatibility is really important here. Not everyone is a devout Baptist vegan who wants kids and is comfortable with their partner traveling for work 15 days out of the month. That person could be a 10 out of 10. Could be the most attractive person you've ever seen in your life. They could be more attractive than most people photoshopped into magazines. But if you're not cool with all of those things about them, if there's some part of that that doesn't jive with your lifestyle, that you can't make work, that's just never going to be reconcilable, then it doesn't matter how physically attractive they are. It doesn't matter what their value was. There was a compatibility issue, and so it's not going to work out. For the record, and this is something that I heard from a dating coach on a YouTube video once, and I can't remember what his name was, but I'm not going to, cite it in the sense that, I don't think this is scientifically verifiable or anything. I don't think that there's, a study that's been done that's making him say this, but I think that it's really healthy to think about. Everyone is capable of hitting at least a 6.5 out of 10 on the physical attractiveness meter. I think everyone can get there. There may be some things that you have to do to get there, but I think that everyone's capable of at least that. And honestly, that's pretty good. I'm happy if that's as high as I can hit in my life. You're not doing too bad at a 6.5. And you've got a chance. You've absolutely got a chance if that's what you're trying to do. Everyone can hit that, but not everyone is going to match this list of very specific criteria. So there are some other things you've got to consider. If you're going to try and name one single variable that determines whether two people are compatible, and that's the only variable you get to check about those two people, I'm going to argue that it's proximity, that you need to be close to that person. If you see that person every day of your life, way, way, way statistically higher odds of you two ending up in a relationship than like anybody else. Like, there are 8 billion people in the world. Think about how many people you see every day. Not a lot of them. That narrows it down dramatically. Something that goes back to what I talked about here, that rejection isn't necessarily a result of your value being lower. I want you to think about why it is that celebrities always end up in relationships with each other. Part of it might be, you know, marketing, that it's profitable for them to be together. But I think a lot of people get this idea that a lot of these celebrities, you know, they're the most attractive people, the most rich and, you know, powerful people. These are the most desirable people. And that's why only the most desirable other people are going to get to be with them. And that might be somewhat true. I mean, she is Beyonce, after all. But also consider Jay-Z is also in the music industry, and they can, like, do songs together. They get each other. They're also both mega rich and mega famous. They probably both have stalkers. They probably both have paparazzi. They probably both understand how awful it is to have both of those things, and they've probably been able to bond over that shared experience that they have with each other. So, on top of just proximity of them being able to see each other often, because they're both in the industry, they probably ran into each other at a bunch of parties or something like that. I don't know how they met. I don't know their stories. Someone can probably fill me in more journalistically than that. I don't care. But they were close together. They have a reason to be with each other. And so they're a lot more likely to end up together. Another thing that kind of tags along with proximity is propinquity. Propinquity is the idea of two people being in the same situation and therefore having a reason to talk to each other. It's kind of a social closeness. It's the idea that these two people are like one another in some way that allows them to connect more than just random strangers. If you've ever met someone who's really good at, like, striking up a conversation with strangers, the skill that they have is the ability to create propinquity, to make it feel comfortable that you're talking to this person. Like, oh, I'm having a conversation with this nice gentleman now, instead of, why is he talking to me? The difference between those two things is, have they created what feels like a natural reason to open up a little bit more to them? Even if it's just something like talking about the weather. You know, even if it's just like a really simple, random small talky kind of thing. Well, oh yeah, I guess we are experiencing the same weather at the moment. We do live in the same place. That is a thing that we can talk about together. And that gets us over a little bit of a hurdle. And so that's something that is pretty valuable to try and establish. And that's something that I think a lot of people struggle to create. Confidence is another really attractive feature. So we were talking about, you know, compatibility a little bit before, but remember now we're talking about how to be attractive. So when we get in a situation where we have proximity to someone we might be interested in, one of the things that's probably going to draw people in is confidence. And what I want to highlight here, and hopefully the volume isn't like blaring our ears out when I click this play button, because I'm scared. But I want to point out the way that, and this isn't even a situation where these two are like trying to rizz each other up or something like that, but I want to point out a number of aspects of confidence that we see from Pokimane in this interaction that she has with Lily Pichu.
Hi guys.
So context, was that like super duper loud when Lily just said hi guys? I hope it wasn't like painful. If it was, please tell me now so that I can turn the volume down. Bit low, actually? Okay, cool. We'll bump that up a little bit. Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry, maybe not. I am so sorry. Hi guys, welcome to Brush It Off.
cool, when I pressed the spacebar instead of pausing like it usually does, it jumped
So sorry.
way off.
God.
Okay, K key still works. Cool. Anyway, not too loud. Okay, cool. So, video ends here, and they're about to sign off. And this is Lily Pichu's channel, to be clear. That's the woman on the right, in case you don't know the two. But Pokey ends up taking over and signing off. And I'll let the clip play through, and then I want to talk about a couple of aspects of this.
Yes.
Okay. Hey guys. I just filmed the intro.
Thank you so much for watching.
Ah!
We hope you enjoyed. I think this is the 3rd episode of
Yes.
Brush It Off. Isn't it so amazing? What a cool series that Miss Lily Pichu has created here on YouTube.com. Shout out her Patreon. Please go check it out. She posts
Like a longer version.
She posts a longer version, so if you want to know all the weird stuff we discussed, because we did some very taboo topics.
Drugs. Sex.
Unironically.
Actually.
Anyways,
Would
you
not be
can watch
surprised.
the full version on her Patreon, which is going to be in the description box.
She's such a content goblin.
She doesn't put it above the fold, which is really annoying, and you should. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please like if you want more, and also just to support her, because the likes kind of tell the algorithm, damn, this was really
This is
good.
awesome.
You know? Leave a comment. Maybe tell her who she should have on the next episode, because she didn't even ask me to be here. I literally told her I'm coming on your podcast.
I mean, I did
So
ask.
I have a feeling she just doesn't know.
I don't know.
Who should I ask next? So
I-
tell her, please.
Yeah, tell me who to.
And subscribe if you want to for sure see the next one.
Holy shit! This why she's a professional.
So, the body language is one thing. You know, we can talk about posture. We can talk about how when something was said, you know, that might have phased her, she didn't really show too much of a change from where she was. There's a lot that you can dig into there. But just the way that she's comfortable enough with Lily, who is her friend, to contradict her, to kind of take over and do this thing that she's really good at and show off a little bit. The way that she feels like when she contradicts Lily, or when she says like, hey, here's this criticism, here's the way you should really do it. That doesn't come off as mean. It comes off as helping a friend. Because she's also saying, you know, support her Patreon. She's also saying, hey, here's this way that you can help the algorithm, help her channel take off. There's a lot there that suggests that Pokey really knows what she's doing, really knows what she's talking about. And the steady voice, the body language, again, I feel like there's a point that I'm forgetting, and that's why I keep circling back and trying to come up with it, but maybe it'll come back eventually. All of this comes across as really genuine, that, like, what Pokey is saying is actually what she's thinking. You get that impression, because she's not shying away from the things that are harder to say, so whatever she says that's nice, she really means it. There's a lot there that's genuinely just generally attractive. There's confidence correlates really heavily to competence, to being good at something. It also correlates well to a lack of problematic insecurities, things that will be hang-ups when you're trying to get to know someone better. Pokey's able to handle confrontation, which is important in a relationship with anybody, friend, romantic partner, whatever. And she's able to handle that in a way that's direct, upfront, that's not beating around the bush, that's not expecting someone to read their mind, but that also isn't going to jeopardize the relationship. And another thing about Pokey that I think is really good to study if you're interested in, like, figuring out this kind of confidence is it doesn't show up as well in this particular clip that I just showed, but when you see her with other women in streaming, think about how she's interacting with them. You'll find that she tends to gas other women up more than she talks about herself at all. It's like, part of it is, okay, she's probably made her bag and she's helping these other women make theirs. But also, there's just, I think, something genuine about that where she has enough confidence in herself that it almost kind of overflows and she can give it to other people. That's the way I like to describe it. So, to be clear, it's important not to let this kind of confidence grow into arrogance. Pokey can talk like this because she's like literally the best to ever do what she is doing. This is an area where she is an expert, where she absolutely can do this job on Lily Pichu's channel as well as Lily Pichu can. But you have something that you're good at. You have something you can be confident in. You don't have to be the best in the world at something to be able to be confident and find that in something. So I think that this is a good example that we can learn from. Okay. This is a general subject where this might trigger some body image issues for some people. There are a couple of slides in particular that I am going to put up the content warning for, but just know that we are getting to that particular topic, so keep that in mind. To start with, I would say with physical fitness, trying to become more attractive, trying to like work out, diet, or whatever, literally first priority, just be healthy, okay? Don't exercise because it will make you hot to someone else. Exercise because it's good for you. Exercise because it gives you more energy, because it lets you do more things, because it's good for managing stress. Do it for the sleep benefits. Heart disease is one of the #1 killers of human beings, and so if you just don't get heart disease because you're an endurance athlete, then you will be immortal, like me, I think. Something like that. I think one of the best ways that I've ever conceptualized trying to become more attractive and like how that can be a healthy thing for you rather than something that's just shoring up an insecurity and not dealing with the insecurity itself is I started working out recently with the mindset of I don't want to become attractive so that I get attention from someone else, so that I get someone to like me. I want to become more attractive so that the person that I end up with, because I know there's someone out there for me, I want that person to feel like they have a hot boyfriend. That's been kind of my thought behind trying to bulk up a little bit. And I think that that's been a lot healthier for me than trying to feel like I need to achieve girlfriend. Feeling like this is a goal, an achievement unlocked kind of thing. Like that's going back to that old gender role. This is a way to break that. And that's been something that I've been toying with and I wanted to share with others because I think it has been really positive for me to think about that. So remember, like I said, there's someone for everyone, and that includes body types. We've got jacked, we've got very skinny, we've got dad bod. Like, all of these kinds of body types can be very physically healthy. There's a doctor who will probably sign off on someone who looks anything like any of this. You don't have to be an elite athlete to be, a healthy person. The following 2 slides, by the way, are where the content warning is going to come in. This is one that I'll say before it, but that's when that's going to happen in case someone's waiting to click off. So dieting. Going on a diet, not a good idea. If you're going to do something with what you eat, then change your diet. I talked to a nutritionist once at a party, and it was really, really interesting. This was someone who was being consulted by the government at the time because they were up to date on basically the science of nutrition, and they were asking questions for how to deal with the COVID epidemic from this individual person because they needed doctors to understand what nutritional challenges would face the patients who were suffering from COVID. Like, what stuff is it that people need to get through that disease? So this person is like one of the top in their field, and what they told me, I was asking them like, hey, what have you heard about keto, the keto diet? Because my opinion up until this point had been every fad diet is just a scam. But keto, I've genuinely seen some people lose weight, and part of what they were doing was going on the keto diet. So I was like, hey, is this for real? Like, is this the one true diet? And they were like, oh, diets work, but you have to stay on them. If you're going to change your diet and then just change it back as soon as you hit the weight that you want to be at, your weight will go back to what it was, because you're just going back to eating the way that you were. And a lot of these fad diets, you're just going to be absolutely miserable living on them. You're not going to have a good time, and it's probably not going to be healthy in some ways if you just try to stay on them forever. So don't go on a diet. If you need to eat less cholesterol to support your heart health, and your doctor keeps telling you that, okay, then try to adjust your diet, the things that you just normally buy from the grocery store, so that you're getting less cholesterol. Change your diet. Don't go on a diet. Make it a permanent thing. If you're an endurance athlete, like, I have been for a lot of my life, you probably need to eat some more carbs so that you have energy for those races. If you're trying to bulk up, you got to eat more protein. I'm basically eating a fourth meal. And, I used to eat 3 meals a day. Now I'm eating 4 because I just need more protein and I feel hungrier all the time because of the workouts that I'm doing. That's all well and good. But, and here is the part where the content warning goes up. If you would like to click off, I'll give you a couple of seconds. Just mute. The content warning will go off when I'm done talking about this. There are ways that this can get very unhealthy. If, for example, you are dropping more than 1 to 2 pounds a week, that is more than is considered healthy. Now, I'm not saying you have an eating disorder if you were trying to go for 3 pounds and you didn't realize that it wasn't healthy, and now you're just going to go back to 1 or 2 pounds and make that your goal. Okay, that's whatever. But if you're trying to drop significantly more than that, if you're really, really counting the calories carefully, trying to reduce calories below recommended levels by doctors, if you're doing something extreme like inducing vomiting to try and control weight, those are symptoms of an eating disorder. That's a very serious mental health condition. Talk to your doctor about that. You probably will be referred to a therapist for that, and there's a lot that your doctor can do to help you with that. But make sure that if that sort of thing is happening, that you are getting help for that. That's something that can really, really hurt your health. Going to this topic, there's a lot of stuff about body image out there in general, with especially women. It's been talked about a lot with women and how the beauty standards for women are unrealistic. And I completely agree. I wanted to present a side of that affects men as well, because I do think that this is also something that men go through and don't necessarily always realize is in the same ballpark. These are 2 pictures of Hugh Jackman. The one on the left is the image of him from the movie, and the image on the right is of him when he's, off duty, just able to be his normal self. Now, you'll notice that he's looking much more muscular, much more cut on the left side. On the right side, he doesn't quite have the visible, 6-pack abs. But to get the guy on the left side, he had to cut a lot of water weight. He says very explicitly, do not do what I do at home. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. It's a very extreme thing that he's doing for a very temporary purpose. Abs are actually really hard to keep. You look at him on the right, that's still a good looking guy. Okay, people will still be into that guy right there. But because it's a movie, he's trying to live up to this unrealistic standard, and so he gets there, and he's not going to stay there for very long. And a lot of bodybuilders get to that kind of level where this is probably not something that the typical person wants to do at home. And a lot of people will maybe see this kind of as an ideal and try to use something like a performance-enhancing drug to get there, and that has a lot of side effects as well. Adverse health effects like mood swings, infertility can happen with those kinds of things. So do not go to extreme means to reach this ideal, because not even the people who reach this ideal want to stay there. It's not healthy for them. Okay, we're out of that business there. So moving on to talking about how to, get more physically fit and what you should be aiming for. This is specifically for a lot of dudes, because I think a lot of dudes will think, I want biceps and I want abs. Those are the muscles that girls like, right? Well, no, actually, leg muscles are attracted to, and all of this stuff. what I want you to think more about than like how big does my muscle look, because I mean that does have an effect, but what has more of an effect is what can I do with those muscles. So for example, can I chop a block of wood and, you know, my big manly muscles are rippling as I do that. Well, that's more than just your biceps now. Now we're talking like, you know, your back muscles as you lift the axe back up. You think about hanky-panky and what is physically involved in all of that. You're going to need your core. You're going to need your leg muscles. Dancing, you're going to need your core. You're going to need your leg muscles. If you skip those things, then you're going to look very silly, like this probably photoshopped human. But you're also not going to be able to do the kinds of things that are attractive. Like if you want to, you know, pick your partner up like they weigh nothing but a feather, you're going to need the balance to support that. And that comes from your core. That comes from your legs. Okay? Think about what you can do with your muscles rather than just going for a new PB on the bench press and that's all you care about. I'm not going to play this because there's a lot of copyrighted music, but I highly recommend if you are interested in an idea of like doing something with those muscles. This is Tom Holland, yes, Spider-Man, who is in drag doing a performance lip syncing to Rihanna's Umbrella. And this has been seen like 150 million times, and a lot of the comments are from women, and I wonder why. The performance is about a lot more than just, look at how big and strong I am. But he does kind of show off in some of the dance moves. You know what? I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to let it play for just a second. Mute it. Okay, here we go. I want you to like look at the physicality of what he's doing and realize that this is actually a pretty athletic performance. And it's not about the muscles. It's about what he does with the muscles. And she's just over there like, man, I lost this dance battle. I've heard so many straight women say that that is like one of the most attractive things they've ever seen a man do in a video. So study up, fellas. Figure all that out. Okay. So, getting ready to start dating. So this is, okay, I've got, you know, I'm working on physical fitness and whatnot. I'm ready to start putting myself out there. What do I need to do? Step 1, don't be gross. Practice good hygiene practices. So, for example, protecting your skin. This is something that my people, the white people, are bad at. This is something we are, like, probably worse at than like almost anybody else. I see so many people in my family that have just like really, really leathery skin that I do not see people in other cultures developing until much later in their lives. So sunscreen, moisturizing, there's probably a lot more steps that I'm just not as much of an expert in. Go and look it up from someone who actually knows what they're talking about, but don't take advice on something like skincare from someone who is trying to sell you something, okay? Take advice from like a doctor, from a scientist, and not someone who's pretending to be a doctor or a scientist, someone who is actually familiar with journalistic publication or scientific publications. There's a lot of misinformation that gets spread about stuff like this because if people think that something's good for their skin, then they will buy it. And that's an ulterior motive to convince them that that thing is good for them. So be careful about that. But moving on, this is something that I didn't learn until an embarrassingly late moment in my life. Shampoo and conditioner are two different things. You don't put them together. You don't get that 2-in-1 or 3-in-1 stuff. It's not real. Shampoo goes in your hair, you swish it around and stuff, and then you rinse it out right away. Conditioner, you put in your hair and you leave there for multiple minutes, do the other parts of your shower and stuff, and only then rinse it out much later. Because the conditioner needs to like soak into your hair to actually do anything. I didn't learn that until I was like an adult in the working world. And I was getting like dandruff all the time because my hair was drying out because it wasn't being conditioned properly. It's embarrassing how long that took me, and I almost want to fault like my parents for not teaching me this. This is something that just a lot of people don't know. Trim your nails. Please trim your nails. Just like keep them at a reasonable and neat level. Don't let them get all scraggly. Sure, okay, if your nails are long, but they're also like pink and sparkly and very carefully trimmed and filed, fine. You know what you're doing, right? But if you are a person who is not about decorating your nails, at least just like keep them at a reasonable short length that's not going to get tangled and stuff, that's not going to rip, it's not going to be gross looking, that's not going to get dirt under it. Also, any hair that isn't neat. There's been a lot of stigmatization of body hair, and what is considered kind of acceptable, what's considered, you know, especially like, for example, for a woman's armpit hair. That's something that's been kind of, that makes them seem kind of manly, but like, it's just perfectly normal and natural. It's fine. But keep it neat looking. Wherever the hair is going to be, wherever you're going to show hair, just keep it neat. Don't let it get dirty. Don't let it get like so tangled that you're like, oh man, what's living in there? Like, just make sure that it looks like you have your body under control and that you don't have things growing in it. Don't stink. Please don't stink. There are a lot of ways not to stink. Deodorant is a very good one. The products that you put on yourself when you shower are another. Wash your clothes regularly. Don't just wear the same stuff over and over again. Wash your sheets every now and then, because if those things stay dirty, then you stay dirty. Doesn't matter that you just cleaned yourself if you're putting all of the gunk from yesterday back on yourself by putting all of those clothes back on the next day. You're not going to smell better if your clothes still stink. And this also has an impact on acne. While if you don't regularly wash the things that your skin comes into physical contact with, you're generally going to get more acne. You're going to clog more pores. And the same thing will happen if you keep touching your face with your oily fingers. Our fingers generate a lot of oil. You put that on your face, that oil gets into the pores and clogs them, and that's something that can cause acne. So you want to avoid doing that. What you wear, I'm not a fashion expert, man. You've seen the way that I dress. But I will say that dressing should be something that you do to express yourself. You're not trying to just wear whatever the most expensive thing, because that just means I have money, and that's what you're communicating to people. And if that's really all you need to get across, are those the kinds of people that you really want to be attracting? I don't know. One big question is, do the clothes fit as intended? A single color shirt that just fits really well, you know, no design on it, no nothing, it's just a shirt of a certain color and it fits you well, is probably going to look more attractive than most things that don't fit well. So consider the fit really carefully. Make sure it's not pulling or bunching up or having big, you know, baggy gaps in places that don't highlight your body the way that it naturally is. Also, on getting advice for what to wear, don't go to your parents. Your middle-aged parents who are wearing the same things that they wore in the 90s, they won't know whether your outfit looks good to the people you want to attract. Like, ask someone who's in your crush's peer group. If you are trying to attract a 22-year-old woman, ask a 22-year-old woman who is similar to this person, maybe one of their friends, or maybe just someone who you think would have a similar perspective, what they think looks good on you. That's such a better way to go than to trust that, like, oh yeah, you should be tucking your t-shirt into your jeans. That is an actual thing that's I've been told by older people. It's not the way that people do it much anymore. Maybe sometimes. Maybe there's a reason. I don't know. Fashion's weird. It keeps coming back on itself, but yeah. So, like I said, I'm not the one to necessarily trust too much on this myself, but think a little bit about how you want others to see you and get an opinion from someone who's informed, even if you're not. And that's a pretty good couple of steps to get you on your way. Makeup. If you thought I didn't know things about what to wear, I don't think I've ever actually had someone put makeup on me before. That's often a thing that like a girlfriend will do for her boyfriend just so that he can experience it and kind of know what it's about. But like, I don't think I've even had that. There are a couple of things that I can say, even from this completely clueless perspective I have. One is that I think a lot of guys get the idea that makeup is like powder of attractiveness plus one. That it's just like people are doing this to be attractive and that's the only reason that they ever do it. Whereas it is still very much like what you wear in that it's an art form. It is something that people will do to express themselves. And that's something that we should respect. You know, that we can't just assume, oh, you're just doing this to get guys. Like, no, not necessarily. Maybe they feel confident that way. Maybe they wanted to try out this new look and they were proud of what they were able to accomplish with it. Like, there's definitely more to it than just that. Also, if she's wearing makeup that's so subtle that it almost looks like she's not wearing makeup, it probably took a really long time. That's hard to do. Those are like the two things that I know. And I will leave you with that. I'm sorry if you were looking for more, but in my defense, there are makeup tutorials on YouTube. Go find them. Anyway, one thing that is really important and that I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about is having your head in the right place. So we talked about consent way up at the top of this presentation. If you came in late, you did not see the stuff on consent, go back at some point and watch that stuff. That stuff is the most important part, probably, of this entire presentation. If that's the only thing that anyone were to take away, like if I had one thing to give someone about dating, it's going to be that stuff. So make sure you know all of that frontwards, backwards. But once you got that down, think about your goals. Where have we heard this before? This is straight out of the Squid School videos. Many of my videos. Figure out your goals. So the questions I like to ask are, where is this relationship going? So where is it that I'm trying to end up? Is this going to be long-term relationship? Is this just something casual? Is this something where I'm not going to see the person again after tonight? Like, what's happening here? What are your boundaries? What are you cool with them doing? Where does it become not okay? And what are your deal breakers? Where are you sure that you're just not going to be compatible? What are those things so that you can look for them? And look for them before you see someone really pretty and you decide to ignore what all of your boundaries and deal breakers were because they're pretty. Figure that out now so that you can hold yourself accountable later and you don't realize after the fact, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't have let that happen, huh? Get that all sorted at this point in time. That said, don't set too specific of a deal breaker. Don't set something that isn't really like, I would leave this person if this were the case. Like, it's one thing if they have a pattern of disrespecting their partner's friends. Like, that's not cool. That's not something you probably want to put up with. That's one of those things where you're like, hey, I don't appreciate that you talked to my friend like that. And if they don't profusely apologize and realize that they were a jerk, it's probably time to just move on straight up from there. That's one of those things that you're not going to want to tolerate. If they have the wrong astrological sign and your horoscope said that they weren't the right match for you, I wouldn't put as much stock in that. That's not a red flag to me. So make sure you've got those priorities in order, but know what the real ones are when you get to that point, and be ready to say no. Like I just said, I segued perfectly without even meaning to, be prepared to handle rejection and also to reject others as need be. If you need to practice this, like, practice it. It's important to be able to say no, because if you put yourself in a situation where you need to say no, but you don't feel comfortable saying no, and you don't know how to, that's not good. That's going to lead to something happening that you don't want to happen. So figure out how to say those things. So, a couple of things about rejection to maybe help us get through that aspect of it. First of all, like we've talked about, unreciprocated attraction doesn't necessarily mean that you are not attractive. There might be some very specific thing that they need in a partner that you don't have, but that doesn't mean that they don't think you're cute or something like that. Unreciprocated attraction can still be very flattering. Like, if you play this off right, even if they are not actually into you, it can still be okay. It can still leave, with both people feeling more attractive for this having happened. It can let you feel confidence that they were like, oh, hey, I'm sorry, I've got a girlfriend, but thank you so much for the drink or, whatever else. Like, if they let you off gracefully, you can feel like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I got this. You can leave feeling more confident. And they can leave feeling like, oh, hey, someone tried to hit on me. That feels kind of good. That can be okay. Okay, it doesn't have to be this, like, disastrous Titanic into an iceberg moment where your self-esteem is shattered. You can both walk away feeling better for that having happened, even though you didn't end up in a relationship. That's what you're aiming for whenever rejection happens on either side. Remember again that compatibility isn't a number on the out of 10 scale, that it's not just, oh, I have less value because they said no. It's they just didn't line up with the very specific checklist that person needed, and that's okay. And you can also frame your rejection of someone else in that way. You can say, like, oh, hey, I'm sorry, it's just this specific thing. And, like, I get it, like, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I dig you. You have a good vibe. Whatever it is that, gets the point across that you see them, you feel them, and that they're attractive. Just, here's the one problem. Here's the reason that I'm not engaging with that. That can be a way to let someone down easy. I think we talk about that a little bit more later, but let's say you're working on a dating app, because that's a very different environment than trying to walk up to someone in person. One of the most important parts of the dating app is to take good pictures, specifically pictures. The bio, less likely to be read, but the first picture, everybody is going to see every time. And it's important for that to be good. Now, what good means depends on the person. This guy in this picture probably thinks that this was a really good picture. He's showing off a pretty impressive physique, like he's pretty cut. Honestly, probably missing some water weight there or something, because there's a lot of muscle going on there. And he's probably pretty proud of that. And he's showing off, hey, I've got this hobby, I'm a fisher. Just, kind of a country boy kind of fisher. I do this sort of thing all the time. I'm pretty humble. He's got a little cross necklace. He's showing off his faith. He's got a dog. There are a lot of things here that a guy might think are attractive. But just go Google sometime women's problems with there being a fish in the picture. With the I caught a fish pose. This is apparently really common and apparently really annoying. Why? Ask the straight women. But, if this guy doesn't know that and puts this out about himself and just, keeps getting swiped left on, he's going to be confused. Ask someone in your crush's peer group. Like I said, find the kind of woman that you would like to swipe right on you and figure out what she wants you to put in the bio instead. What would make you look good? Just find a female friend, a platonic friend, who's like, okay, here are the things that you'll want to do. This is what'll show you off in your best light. And you'll probably have a lot of success that way. It's the pictures are everything there. Find your Insta models who've got the lighting and everything and know what they're doing. Get in good with one of them, and you'll kind of learn a little bit more about how it's done. Okay, next we're coming to the point where you're actually trying to make somebody else attracted to you. And this is going to be a controversial phrase here, but I think it's not useful to talk about Riz. Not because it doesn't mean anything, but because this word is not specific enough. When someone says that someone rizzed up someone else, what that tends to mean is the person who's observing this has no idea what's going on, and all they can understand is, they said something and then they were really into it and I don't get it. Like, that's kind of the vibe that I get. It's too general. Talk about more specifically what's going on in that conversation. First of all, I knew someone was going to mention Baby Gronk. There was a joke I had written in where I reference Baby Gronk later, and it's already been made for me, so it'll feel... Anyway. Something that, like, I think a lot of people focus too much on is the pickup line, essentially. The line that you say to try and get the person interested in you. I have a counter argument to that. Here's what I actually think. I think if your pickup line worked, it wasn't because of the quality of your pickup line. That wasn't actually the reason that you were actually successful. There are a lot of things that they're going to see, first of all, before you deliver that line. There's your appearance, which we already talked about. There are a lot of things you can work on there. There's your body language. Remember, we talked about the posture that Pokey had to show confidence. I want a quick note on posture. I didn't mean to use that particular word. Posture, I think, gets misinterpreted a lot because posture really isn't like... It's healthier to always maintain this upright chest up and, you know, eyes forward, kind of confidence, shoulders back idea. I think typically the reason that this kind of posture is seen as attractive is because it takes really strong back muscles to be able to keep up for any length of time. That's my theory. Because what I generally tend to see in the sources that I trust more, that's not to say that I've done a ton of scientific study on this, but sources that seem legit to me tend to be saying more like, the best posture for you to be in is the next one you shift to. Shifting a lot, going into different positions is actually better, so you don't overstress the body in any one particular position by staying there too long. But if you have, you know, a pretty strong core and you can maintain that, it's pretty impressive to be able to just be, you know, chest up, shoulders back, looking assertive out there. So that's something that they can pick up on. There's just a general nonverbal vibe, I think, that goes along with a lot of this, that you can get, again, before they even speak to you. Here's a story that I think illustrates this pretty well. One year in high school, we had a turnabout dance. That's a dance where the girls are intended to invite the boys out to the dance. Again, what do the non-binary people do in that situation? Man, I don't know. But, you know, heteronormativity is a thing. And so there's a girl who comes to ask me. Now, context. This girl is one of the best musicians that I've ever known in my life. She is a multi-instrumentalist and also a singer, almost to an unhealthy degree. Like, not only is she like making the district choir on a yearly basis, but also like she kind of just gets woken up in the middle of the night to practice by her parents. It was kind of a weird thing that I was like, that doesn't actually seem like a healthy thing to do. She was really, really musically talented, okay? And she comes in with a friend to accompany her on ukulele to sing a song that she wrote to ask me out to this dance. And she absolutely butchers it. It's just so below her pay grade how badly she sang this thing. Part of the problem is that she was doing it in a really open public area. There was a lot of extra noise. Part of it was that the acoustics were pretty terrible, and all of the sound from like the accompaniment was just going straight up to the ceiling. It wasn't reverberating the way that it normally does in a more closed environment, so she wasn't able to hear her partner very well and keep in time. And it was just like every stereotype that you've ever heard of someone singing badly, like voice cracks, being really off pitch, falling out of time. It was a complete disaster. And I immediately said yes. Like, I let her finish. I let her complete the performance. But, like, she soldiered on through all of that. She kept going. It was really sweet. And I'd already decided that I was totally cool with going to the dance with her. It didn't matter how badly she botched that. I'm going out with her. And we did. So don't worry so much about the way that you say it, because generally they've probably already made up their mind. I've asked multiple people about this, and they've all said that if I've generally, to be fair, asked women or people who will be clocked as women. If a guy approached you in a bar and tried to use a pickup line on you, would the quality of the pickup line ever change your answer? And every time I heard that the answer was no. That if they weren't attracted to the person in the first place, the line would not have changed that. So think instead of like really, really typing out and working out your pickup line and exactly what it is. Think about what it is you're attracted to, okay? Appearance, sure, but that was work we've already talked about and we've already done. There's nothing you can do to change that on the night. So what else? A lot of people will say, oh, the vibes that I give. And I don't really like, I used the word vibe earlier, but that's another one of those words like Riz that I think is just kind of vague and too general to be meaningful. Dig a little bit deeper. Humor is one thing that is really attractive to just people in general. Anything that makes you feel comfortable, anything that makes you loosen up a little bit, feel less uptight, feel less tense, humor is beautiful for that. Feeling good around them in general, general positivity, even if they're not being directly funny at that moment, great sort of vibe to go for. Being engaging or engaged. So like, be someone who is inviting the other person to participate in the conversation with you, you know, prompting them with questions, not just talking and talking and talking and droning over them, but like letting them get a word in edgewise. Someone who's also interested in what they have to say instead of just thinking about what you're going to say next. That's really important. Being able to keep a conversation going that someone actually wants to be a part of is what I'm getting at there. And that involves some give and take. Find things that you have in common with them as quickly as you can. Anything that you can bond over. Went to the same city? Perfect. Talk about your favorite, you know, fast food place from there that you miss that isn't here. You know, whatever immediately comes to mind, but like find something in common quickly so that you develop propinquity. You have a reason to be talking to each other now. And being helped by them is also huge. This often, of course, falls into the male gender role of helping the woman, but like either way, it's still really attractive when someone can help you or you can be helped by them graciously. There was one thing that I feel like I forgot to say that I'm going to think about really hard, real quick, and if it doesn't come to me quickly, I'll move on and maybe hopefully come back to it. Oh, right. And I think this does come up later, but something that's really important here that I was talking about in the conversation section a little bit is you need to be watching them. Don't think about your performance here. Again, this isn't a single player game. Look at how they're responding. If you approach them immediately in like, you know, try a line or something and their body language is telling you they're not into it, you don't just keep going. You try to make a graceful exit. If they're turning and looking at you and smiling at you a lot and, you know, maybe accidentally touching your arm occasionally as they walk by you, if, you know, they're paying a lot more attention to you than they are to other people, you're only going to see that if you're paying attention to them. But if you notice those things, then that's a sign to continue, that you're doing it right and to keep going. Now, in this interaction, let's say that you've had a conversation and it's going well. What's the goal here? What do you do next? First of all, are you going to ask them out on a date? If you're going to ask them out on a date, then think about what that date is going to be very carefully. And you might want to plan this ahead of time. Because you've got to think, will this date that you asked for actually help you get to know someone? I actually really don't like having a date where people are playing video games with me. Because what I find tends to happen is all we engage with is the video game. We don't really tend to engage with each other. Like, how am I supposed to, you know, drum up a good conversation when both of us are constantly thinking about, you know, what buildings we want to place in Civ, right? That's something that's taking up enough of our attention that I feel distracted playing the game and also trying to talk to someone. I want it to be more casual. I want to just be able to talk to them. So that's something that I try to avoid nowadays when I'm asking someone out. Even though I play a lot of video games and they're a big part of my life, that's typically not the thing that I'm going to try and do first. Even if you like this person, is it realistic that you're going to end up in the kind of relationship that you want to be in with them? So, for example, something that might happen... this is a Splatoon-related thing. We can tie this back to Splatoon here. This is also Splatoon advice. Let's say that you met someone at a LAN. Let's say that you met someone in person at one of these big tournaments, but you're only there for like 2 or 3 days, and they live on the other side of the country or even the world. Unless you're planning on moving over to that other part of the country for a really good reason sometime soon, you're probably not ending up in something long-term with that person. And you have to be realistic about that and not try to treat them as though you're trying to reach that point. So think, what's a realistic outcome here? To make a Splatoon comparison, we don't play a game of Splatoon with the goal of, I want to win. I just want to get as far as I can with this person. Like, that again is single player achievement unlocked kind of mentality there. We want to do something that's going to, you know, enrich our lives in some way. So, first of all, don't go in thinking, I want to win, because that doesn't help you win. You need to think more about how you get to that goal, if that's even something that you're looking for. But also, if all you're looking for is just, haha, I got to smooch them, mission accomplished. Well, if you didn't, like, learn anything about them, if there wasn't any, like, cool context that this set up for the smooching, it's probably going to be less enjoyable smooching. Think more, I want to get to know them. I want to have a good time on this date with them. I want to connect with them. And then when things are wrapping up, neither of you are going to want this to end because you've gone about it the right way. You've gone about it in an enjoyable way that everyone's having fun with. So that's when you set up another date because you want this to happen again. You want this to, you know, continue to occur. And, you know, that might mean getting their phone number. That might mean setting up another date. That might mean hooking up. That might mean deciding to move in together, getting married, having kids, retiring. Remember, dating doesn't have to stop once you're with someone. All right? That's something, if you're in a relationship, you can still go on dates. And that's actually a pretty good idea. And that's something I recommend doing. But let's talk about general flirting and, like, initiating romantic interactions. First of all, I got some questions, just what is flirting? How do you define it? Which is an interesting question, and it's, like, surprising how little I think people will necessarily know how to answer that question. They kind of know it when they see it, but to put words to it, flirting is showing your attraction to someone, but in a way that you can kind of back away from a little bit, in a way that gives you plausible deniability, in a way that, like, let's say, for example, that you see someone across the room and you're like, man, they are attractive. And you walk up to them and you go, hi, I think you're really attractive and I would like to smooch you. Well, if that person goes, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Angelica. This is my husband, Paul. You're not going to like the outcome of that situation. Now, if you approached that person, you were like, well, hey, how are you doing? With, you know, giving her a little bit of eye. Then when she goes, oh, hi, I'm Angelica, and this is my husband, Paul. It's a lot less awkward to deal with that situation, okay? You're not going to get hurt as bad by being rejected out of that. Flirting is kind of like a game as well. I think there's a good point that's made in, I don't think it's this particular video, but this psychologist, Dr. Anna Uden, has a YouTube channel that I've found, I think it's pretty good. Obviously, doctor of clinical psychology, so she studies this. And she also seems to have a pretty mature level head about this sort of thing. So I take her advice at a higher level than I think, most YouTubers at the very least. And one other thing that she adds to this is that flirting is kind of like a game. You're sort of like building up tension for fun, setting things up so that when you actually follow up and something more concrete happens in that relationship, first of all, like we talked about before, it can stop at any point in time when someone realizes, oh, wait, I'm being flirted with, I need to shut this down. And then it can happen more gracefully. But then when the other shoe finally does hit the floor, when you actually follow up and, proposition something, now it's more fun because the tension is now relieved. There's less ambiguity now. Like, aha, you get one of those kinds of moments, like, they were into me. Nice. And this is where I put in my notes to not just think about what you're saying, to watch how they're responding. That we're very good at reading faces. Like, people are very well evolved to read people's facial expressions and know what it is that they're giving back to us. There are some specific conditions that can make that a lot more difficult. Certain kinds of neurodivergence, of course, will maybe have a little bit more trouble with that than the typical person. But in general, like, that's one of the first things we learn to do, is to recognize our parents' faces. That's just one of our really important, like, survival adaptations. And so we also very quickly learn what those people think of us by reading their faces. So this is something that's pretty well built into us. If you just trust your gut, that you look at someone for a second and think, are they into this? A lot of the time you'll probably get it right, as long as they're being expressive and they're not being like super duper neutral all the time. And if they're being super duper neutral all the time, you're probably not getting there. If you were trying to show someone you were interested, you probably wouldn't just like stare at them with a dead eyes like this. You probably wouldn't break eye contact as much as humanly possible and look away and just try not to talk to them. Unless maybe you were really nervous. Sometimes when people are really nervous, they'll do that. But a lot of the time, you're an adult, you're in a setting where people are, typically going to flirt with each other. People will probably be able to give you the right messages there. The technique that Dr. Uden describes here in the video that I've got here, I'm not actually going to show the video, I just wanted to show you in case you were interested in looking it up later, is the match +1 technique. The idea here is she's got a scale that's, I think, come out of some kind of research. The radical openness handout that she has on the thumbnail there, I don't know if that's big enough for you guys to read, but it gives levels of intimacy. That is, levels of closeness to another person. We're not talking about like physical romantic intimacy kind of stuff here. We're talking about like, how much do you know about this person? How vulnerable are you to this person? How much do you share with this person? So level 1 is like, we're going to talk about the weather or something. And then level 3 is we're actually going to share an opinion about something. And level 5 or 6 is like revealing important private feelings or emotional judgments about something. Each one of those levels is a step up in how much you're willing to share with someone. And the recommendation here is, okay, we're at level 2 right now. Next time I meet them, let's go to level 3. Let's share something that's a little bit more personal than I've shared before and see how they respond. If they try to shut that down immediately, then we go back to level 2. But if they're willing to stay at level 3, then maybe next time we try a level 4. And this is a way you can kind of build relationships over time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like every individual time you meet them. Maybe this is something that slowly progresses as the night goes on and you're realizing you have more and more in common. But I think that's a good way to approach it, to just incrementally go a little bit further in what you're willing to share with them and disclose things about yourself up until the point where either they shut you down or you get to where you want to be. Something that's really important to remember is, number 1, don't escalate the conversation too fast and run into a heavy enough subject that your relationship with them is not yet strong enough to support. Really, really heavy topics might kind of dampen the mood or make things awkward, or put them in a situation where they're like, oh, I really disagree with you on this very important point, and I don't really even know you that well, so I'm not really that willing to get over that. And another thing is, if your advances are unwelcome, persistence is not going to make them welcome. Do not push for, again, this goes back to a consent thing. Do not push for more interest in you than they are willing to give. If there's a point where they're trying to draw a boundary, then let that boundary be there. And, you know, maybe as you get to know them better, that boundary can lift a little bit. But for right now, if they're not giving you good vibes, then don't go there. All right. This is a classic example of how not to escalate, of escalating far too fast, and of not reading signs of a person's disinterest. This is a Mad TV sketch. The person here, they're portraying a man. This is actually a female actor. Her name is Nicole. And you can just kind of tell in this sketch that, like, she's got some experience feeling like this, and she wanted to get a little bit of that out in the way that she goes about this. So, not much of a response from the person, so they just repeat it. Persistence, it will get you nowhere. This person's like, oh God, I'm going to look back and I'm going to hope that they're not looking at me. And then they're staring at me. Oh crap, I made eye contact. What do I do now? Now they know that I'm listening.
Oh, damn. Okay.
You can tell she's taking a deep breath, like her heart rate's elevating a little bit. She does not want this.
Okay. Excuse me, can I touch you for a minute? Excuse me, can I talk to you for a minute?
This is now loud and inappropriate. They're kind of making a scene. This is in a movie theater.
Yeah, what's up?
She's trying not to, you know, take the person down too hard, but she's clearly upset. You can hear it in her voice. You can see it in her face.
My name Darrell. It's spelled like Daryl, but it's pronounced Darrell. Yeah, I just want to let you know, the back of your head is ridiculous.
So the compliments are immediately going to physical appearance, and that's not necessarily, you know, the best leading way to go about it, because complimenting someone's appearance, that isn't necessarily complimenting them, that's complimenting their looks. We talked about that earlier. This goes on, and the situation just gets more awkward and more ridiculous, but you kind of get the idea here. Like, there are a lot of signs that this person is giving that they're not into it, and those signs are not being picked up. I don't know why it redid that, but here we are. Okay. This is a big one. This was one of the big categories that I got asked about a lot. Oh, wait. I forgot one thing. About this. And that was the bullet point. I skipped straight over the bullet point. Pardon me, that person's YouTube tag was definitely not appropriate, but it was the only version of this clip that I could find that wasn't at 240p. Anyway, here's my number versus can I have your number? Here's my number is way less intrusive. Think about it. They can take your number right now to ease the tension of the situation and then just not call it. And it's not like you're going to be blowing their phone up with texts because they don't have your number right now. This gives them an opportunity to reject you. It gives them a graceful out that's not going to be like massively awkward in a public situation. So that's, I think, a pretty tactful way to go about exchanging someone's phone number. Just be like, hey, here's my number. If you want me to have yours, text me your name. That's the move that I've gone for in the past, and I think that that's a better way to go about it than demanding to have access to someone before they even have access to you. Okay, going back. confessing feelings. This is one of the things that I got asked about the most. This is one of the big bins of questions that I got on the Google form. And one of the very common assumptions that goes into this is that there is a problem because you've got this friend and you've got feelings for them, and you're worried that if you confess those feelings, it will end the friendship. That is a thing that has never happened to me. Never once have I confessed feelings for someone that I was a friend for and had those feelings ruin the relationship. I was still able to be friends with those people after that happened. And maybe that's not a common thing. Maybe this is actually an issue that happens to people. But I think there is a way to go about it where you can be friends, have romantic feelings for each other, and then if those romantic feelings don't end up working out, if the relationship doesn't go where you want it to, you go back to being friends. That's totally possible. It has happened before. In fact, the vast majority of the exes that I have had, I feel pretty confident I could just like send a text, say, hey, what's up? How you doing? And we could have a nice conversation, a cordial one, if not necessarily the friendliest and warmest one. Now, obviously that's not the case for every relationship. Sometimes, when people get close to each other, they hurt each other. But here's the way that I would go about it if you've got these feelings. Because what tends to happen in these situations is people feel like they can't say anything about it, but that they need to. And it just starts to boil and build up. And it's only when they get to the point where, I have to say something, I need to confess, that it becomes this big, overwrought, dramatic thing, and it freaks people out and overwhelms them. What Dr. K, who you may know from YouTube, is a psychiatrist who gives a lot of advice on life in general, and I've generally approved of a lot of the things that he's said. Obviously, it's coming from a place of being a professional expert. He recommends that you approach it more along the lines of, hey, so I value my friendship with you, but I've been having these kinds of feelings that are outside of those boundaries. What do we want to do about that? That's kind of the approach that he comes at with this. Obviously, what do we want to do about that? You might want to reword that to make it make more sense in your context. But what you're trying to do is establish that we're still friends, regardless of what happens. And there's this thing that is causing a problem for me. I have these feelings, and I don't know if they're reciprocated. Can you help me out with this? You're posing it like this is a friend who's helping you understand as a friend what those feelings, whether those have a place or not. It feels a lot more casual. It's grounded in the relationship that you've already got. And it leaves them room to feel like if they say no, they still get to be friends with you afterward. Because that's one of the things that really sucks for them. Especially the more dramatic the confession is, the more you're like, I overflowing with love for you, the more pressure you're putting on the other person to like say yes or something. The more you make it feel like they could crush your heart like a tin can right now, the more difficult it is for them to navigate that situation. But if it's just like, hey, I kind of think you're kind of cute, and I've been trying to think about like whether you feel the same way, if there's something you want to do about that, or if I should just kind of try to work through those feelings. Like, where are you at on this? Like, that's so much more low-key, so much less stress, and they're probably a lot more willing to be open with you because you're not putting them in a difficult position. Don't work up the okay, let's get to that point later. For some background on this, just like social proof here, because I've been through a situation like this. I have said the words "I love you" to someone and seriously considered moving across the country to a place where I had no one to be with, just to be with them. And I've been turned down from that. Okay, that level of interest in someone is crazy. Like, that's not something that I recommend, like, actually considering doing. But me and that person are still friends. And in fact, if anything, we're better friends than we were before. Because if that person knows that about me, I mean, what can't I tell them? What can we not discuss in casual conversation at this point? We can be so much closer now than we were before all of this happened. Just because I was willing to be open about how I was actually feeling about it. So that's about as much as I'm going to disclose about my personal life in the near future. But yeah, it can work. Now, let's say that you are trying to work up the courage and you just keep freezing and you just keep not saying things. A tip that I have found really, really helpful for getting over that is don't work up the courage to confess in that moment. Just work up enough courage to begin the sentence in which you will eventually confess. Just like start saying the first two words. And if you can get yourself to that point, now you've got their attention, they're listening to you. How are you going to talk your way out of this? You've already started saying this sentence. It's going to come out now. Well, okay, I guess I've got to say it now. Just give yourself a little bit of a push that will eventually snowball into the thing that you're going to say. And that has generally been pretty successful for me when there's something difficult that I have to say. And that can be, you know, I'm breaking up with someone. That can be I'm confessing my feelings for them. That can be any number of different things. That's a tactic that I've found useful in a lot of different places in my life when I've had something really hard I need to say. I imagine that would work for firing someone. I imagine, you know, there's a lot that you can do with that tactic. The words I love you. I'm not saying don't say I love you, but recognize that the words I love you are a big deal. It's about the biggest expression of care for another human being that you can make. Do not take this lightly. Do not just say this to everyone because it makes them respond positively. Love is more than just like thinking they look good, and it is more than enjoying being in a relationship with them. It's a big deal. You do not ever owe anyone these words, okay? I've seen people apply pressure to each other, like, if your partner says I love you to them, you should say I love you back. If you don't love them back, do not say I love you back. That's what I'm going to tell you. I don't think that's a healthy thing to do. I think that's lying to them and giving them false expectations of what they can expect from you emotionally. I think that's worse than saying absolutely nothing at all. I think that's worse than giving them the, I really like you as a friend after they say I love you. I would much rather break their heart then and now than let them keep thinking that this is going to go somewhere it's not. That said, if it is true, then don't take too long to say it, because life is too short not to let people know that they are loved. I've heard stories about people who have gotten into car accidents, and their loved ones are terrified that, like, oh my God, I didn't say I love you that day. I needed you to know that. And they start saying it to each other more often just because they realize that, like, life is short, that life is fleeting, and that that's something that they wanted that person to know every single day of it. So if you do get to that point and you do genuinely feel that incredibly powerful and beautiful feeling, be sure that you don't miss your opportunities to say it when it counts. Okay, this is an ugly situation, having imbalanced feelings. One person, let's say, like the previous example, is madly in love. The other person's like, yeah, you're kind of cute, I guess. For the person who feels more strongly, so the person who I guess you could say has less power in this relationship, in that they're the ones who feel like their fate hangs in the balance a little more. People can take some time to, you know, decide to get to know you, that you are actually someone they want to be with, but at a certain point, you have to tell yourself, if they don't have feelings for me by now, I'm not going to earn those feelings later, whatever the heck that means. Because again, it's not just a value thing. It's not about whether this person is a 9 out of 10 for you. It's a lot of compatibility stuff. And if you're running into a compatibility issue, well, unless that issue becomes a non-issue, you're not going to fix that through any effort of your own. So continuing to try is only going to make you more and more distraught over it. And then if you're on the other side of that, if you are someone has much stronger feelings for you than you have for them, sometimes it can be okay. Sometimes it can work if you communicate with each other effectively and you feel like you can reach a place where the two of you are both cool with what's going on. And it's not just that they're saying they're cool with what's going on. It's that you can tell that they're enjoying being with you in that context. That sure, they would do more, but at least they're cool with this much. But sometimes you might need to see that they are hurting. You might need to see that they're not really okay with this, that they're only telling you they're okay with it because the alternative is them losing you. And in that kind of a situation, you might need to be the one to make the decision to end it. Even if they're explicitly telling you it's fine, if you can tell by just looking at them that they're not fine, you might just need to go and cut the cord at that point. See if there was anything else about that I needed to say. Oh, definitely bring this kind of situation up with a therapist, especially if it's gone on for a long time. Especially if you are the person with the unreciprocated feelings. That is something that can cause a number of known mental health issues that you want to bring up and make sure that you're not falling into. Let's move on from there. Situationship, very similar kind of idea here. This word basically means a relationship that's kind of somewhere between a casual hookup and a committed long-term relationship, but it's not really well defined. And I would just say you should probably define it. Figure out where that's at and actually like have the mature DTR, define the relationship, kind of conversation with the other person, figure out where that's going. Because when you don't know where the boundaries are or where people's feelings are at, it's really easy for people to get hurt needlessly in this kind of a situation. Like if you think that this person's going to be with you forever and that's not what's on their mind and you don't know that, you could very easily end up in this situation again. So try not to let that sort of thing happen. Just kind of figure it out. And if they're not willing to talk about it, if they're not able to figure out where their feelings are like an adult person, then I don't know, man. I don't see a situation where that sort of ambiguity has a reasonable explanation other than they just haven't figured themselves out yet. Whew. That was some heavy stuff. Relationship advice. So this is, you are already in a relationship. You have done a dating, and now you are doing we are now dating each other. This is something that a lot of people gloss over because in movies, getting the girl, you know, the ending with a happy kiss or a wedding or something, that's the end of the movie. That's mission accomplished, you know. The guy killed the dragon with a sword and now he gets to kiss Sleeping Beauty. But in real life, that's actually kind of the starting point. That's where you actually have to start thinking, and this is probably the hardest part, actually. Like, there's this big romantic idea that you can have of this kiss that we're seeing here, but what's really happening in a relationship is this banter that's going on underneath it. So first of all, something that I've seen recommended and I think is a really good idea that can be really illuminating is to keep a journal so that before the relationship, you can see where your head was at, where your mental was at. And then during the relationship, you can see if that's changed something. Because if you're, for example, writing out, oh my God, today was such a beautiful day. I'm having, such a good time for, every page while you're in the relationship. Whereas it wasn't like that before, that probably means things are going well. And if you're writing about how, oh, I cried today about X, Y, and Z thing that happened in my relationship, and that's happening like, 2 or 3 times a week, and that didn't used to happen before, that might be a sign that things are not going where you want to be, and that there's at least some problems that you've got to resolve there. This self-awareness is really, really important so that you can bring up problems before you make them somebody else's problem. We set goals a while back. You might not remember it, but we asked these 3 questions. Where is this relationship going? What are your boundaries? What are your real deal breakers? So, first question, where is this relationship going? Well, are you getting there? Are you going to where you want to be? Is there like a clear path towards that direction? Is your partner as committed to getting there as they claimed they were before? Is that still where you want to go? If any of these questions are not the answer yes, ! Then communicate. You need to talk about that. You need to bring that up in a conversation. It doesn't have to be like super confrontational and angry. In fact, better if it's not. Again, keep it casual. Keep it like problem solving. But that's something you got to talk about. What are your boundaries? Well, is your partner respecting your boundaries? That's an important thing. Are they clear enough about their boundaries that you can respect them? It's often pretty common in a relationship that someone just doesn't know exactly where their boundaries are. And so they go, hey, let's do this thing. And then that thing happens. And they're like, oh my God, wait, no, that's not okay. Please stop. And it's really painful for everybody when that happens. You want to avoid that as much as possible. It might happen sometimes still. That's just a part of, having new experiences, but avoid that as much as you can. Get them to communicate their boundaries as much as you can get them to. Is there adequate communication when boundaries change or when people discover boundaries that aren't where they thought they were? There needs to be some room for that to be changing. Again, communication is really, really important here for solving all of these problems. What are your true deal breakers? Remember, we were setting these before we found a pretty person and threw all of our standards away because they were pretty. First of all, never ever let yourself think that you will never find another person like this, because you already found this one. So if there are others like them, what's making you think that the others like them will not also like you? And also, if you're saying, I won't find another one like this, to get yourself past, to rationalize someone's big red flags that are a problem for you, I'll tell you this, you can do better than what you've got right now. Because you can find a relationship where you don't have to put up with those red flags. So make sure that you have the self-respect to see when there are big problems, those problems are not being addressed, there are red flags, there are things that this partner isn't willing to work with you on that you need, and be willing to cut the cord and have the respect to get out of it if that's something that's happening. A lot of people asked about how to, rejuvenate a relationship. Just keep doing the things that were really exciting to begin with. Okay, you've got the girl now, but that doesn't mean you can't still take her out on a date. Doesn't mean you can't still flirt with her, right? It was fun before, why not just keep doing it? Great way to kind of just keep things feeling exciting. And relationships will become less of that really exciting, intense, suspenseful thing over time and become more companionate as things go. But that's a great way to do it. Just find some new experience for you two to have. Even just watch a new show that the two of you haven't seen before and talk to each other about it. You'll probably learn some new side of that person that you hadn't seen before you'd seen the show. Or you could just go skydiving and realize, hey, I can help my partner through their terrifying fear of heights. And that's a way we can bond. Whatever level of excitement you're in for, but just keep doing the things that got you attracted to each other in the first place. Long distance relationships is something I got asked about a lot. I've never been in one for any serious committed length of time. I'm no expert on this. I will say this. I personally would not want to be in one, at least at the point that I'm at in my life right now. I care very much about being able to give someone a hug. I care about that physical touch. That's something I want from a relationship, and I feel confident that I can get that from a relationship from someone who's near enough to actually give me that in person. Somebody that I don't need to see once every year or something like that. If you've found someone who is really special and important to you, and you love them enough that you're willing to wait 2 years or something to be with them, then I feel like you already know that, and you're willing to go through that. But a lot of these relationships kind of spring up around like school, where like you were high school sweethearts and now we're both going to college in different places, and like, can we stay together? Can we keep things together? You're going to be a different person 4 years later after you've got that degree. You're going to have met a lot of new people. You're going to have expanded way outside of the bubble that you were in high school. I think that most of those kinds of relationships where you're not sure, if you two just kind of part ways, maybe stay friends, keep in touch, but like say, we're not going to be exclusive anymore, I think you probably both find somebody else by the time you're all done with that. And maybe, you know what, you go and you meet some other people and you're like, no, it's not the same, this has been a mistake. Maybe you come back and revisit. That's my take. But again, that's a very uninformed take, and that's one of the things that I am honestly least confident about in this whole presentation. So take that for what it's worth. This one I feel very strongly about. Resolving conflicts in a relationship. So we talked about how communication is really important, and that communication needs to take a very particular tone. This is an image that you might recognize because it's been used in one of my Squid School videos already. This is drawn by my old boss, Scott Novus. Look at the difference here between these two pictures. There's, we have a problem, and we're blaming the people for the problem. And then there's, we have a problem, working with the people to solve the problem. If you blame, now you're fighting the only person who can help you fix this. If you say, okay, the problem is the enemy, me and you are going to work together to fix the problem, you're very likely to get through it. This is not just coming from me. One of the things that I got from the Google form, I'm going to read this word for word. This was not a question that they asked. They say, is it okay if I give some dating advice of my own? I've been married for over 10 years, and the single greatest thing that has kept the relationship strong is the idea of, it's not me versus you, it's us versus the problem. Relationships need teamwork, unity, and the ability to communicate, coordinate, and decouple any personal failings into a solution-oriented action plan that makes the partnership stronger. This is also competitive Splatoon advice. I've used it in a video. This picture exists, and this is exactly what they were talking about. So if you don't believe me, believe someone who's been married for over 10 years. So speaking more on the subject of resolving conflicts, can you speak honestly to each other about every problem you have and feel like you're not getting shut down, ignored, or creating bigger problems by speaking up? It's important to be able to be honest in that way. I say practice radical honesty, that is just saying whatever the truth is, but seasoned with tactful delivery. So don't put it in the meanest way possible to your partner when you're upset about something. Approach it in a tactful way, but don't sugarcoat what the problem actually is. Don't make them think that the problem is less than it is. Don't make them feel like there's less of a need for a solution. If something feels wrong in a relationship, be the one to bring it up so that they don't have to work up the courage to bring it up themselves. Like if you think that they're bothered by something and you see that like the physical body language signs of them pulling away or something like that, ask them, oh, what was wrong? What just happened? You good? Like, you just did one of these things. Okay, you're telling me it's okay, but then why'd you do this thing? You know? Push them a little bit on it. And if they're like, really, it is fine, I'd rather not talk about it, then, I mean, that's okay for now. But at some point, you want to figure out what's going on. Because if you want to be with that person, you want that person to feel comfortable around you. You don't want to be creating that sort of reaction. Psychological safety is something that we talked about a lot with Bravest content, back when that was a company. Everyone should feel okay sharing while they're sharing. They should not feel punished just for speaking up, even about something that they think or feel that's problematic. Like, even if what someone is saying is wrong, they shouldn't feel shut down just for trying to say something. You should be more along the lines of, I'm glad you felt comfortable sharing that with me. Now, here's why I don't feel like I agree with what you just said. Like, reward speaking up even as you address that what they said was a problem. This is a really big step, moving in with someone. This is really, really late phase relationship, and this is kind of spooky. Now, timelines differ with culture. Obviously, some people are going to be faster about this kind of thing. Moving in with someone, getting married to them, whichever one comes first. Usually, I think we tend to see people move in first, kind of a trial period before you get married. But again, a lot of different cultures will handle this differently. Even within, the same country. But err on the side of waiting longer. That's my general advice. If you feel like you're moving too fast, give it a little more time. It's okay. You've got your whole lives to figure this out. Because if you move in with someone, especially if you're moving pretty far away from where you live, especially if you're moving to a place where you don't already have people, that's a lot of pressure. What that means is this has got to work. If this doesn't work, well, man, I just moved across the country for this. And what do I have now? I have nobody. I have nowhere. That's scary. You don't want to end up in that position. You want to make sure that it is going to work for at least some significant length of time, that you're going to be able to get established there. So have a plan B, first of all. Have a way out of that situation before you put yourself into it. That's really important. Another thing is that while you're there, connect to the community outside of just your partner. If your partner was your only friend there and now you and your partner have split, you don't have anybody, and that's a scary place to be. That's a dark place to be. Keep tabs while you're there. Remember that journaling concept, because you'll want to make sure, again, that this is really where you want to be, that you're not just convincing yourself that this is where you want to be because of the sunk cost, because of the sunk cost fallacy of, well, I've already committed so much to this, so we've got to see it through because I've already put resources into it. People are a lot more flexible than you'd think, especially if you're at this phase in your life where you're able to just drop everything and move in with someone else. If you got there and it was an abrupt move, you can also leave there as an abrupt move most of the time. So don't feel like you've wasted your life going for it. I have a friend who has moved out of state to specifically live with someone who ended up rejecting him when he got there. And it was definitely a dark time while he was there, but moving away, he got into a much more healthy place, and now he's happily married to someone else. You can definitely rebound from that. It's not like the end of your life or anything like that if that doesn't work out. But you got to plan for that. You got to be ready for that. You got to make sure you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're stuck. And like I said, even if it doesn't work out, you will learn something from it, for sure. You will take experience from that you're able to share with somebody else later. I am able to share this with you, not because I made this mistake, but because a friend of mine made this mistake. I considered making this mistake, didn't make this mistake, and feel better for not having made this mistake. So, okay, breakups. I want to talk about one specific thing I got from a Google form that I'll kind of be answering that and talking about breakups at the same time, because this is really relevant, I think. So, person is in high school. They say, I want to know how to keep a relationship that can last. When I think about the topic of love, I can't tell how I can tell a relationship can last for a long time or if it's temporary. Since my parents and more recently 2 of my teammates broke up a while ago. So first of all, I am so sorry that all of that is happening around you, and I know that's got to be disruptive, and there are a lot of hard feelings you're going to have to process with that. But moving to the rest of the question, since my parents and more recently 2 of my teammates broke up a while ago, I'd like to get some insight on how to try to avoid that. The answer that I have for you might not be exactly what you were hoping to hear, but I hope it will help anyway. I have never known of a breakup that wasn't the best possible outcome in that situation. Every relationship that I've seen kind of try to stay together for the sake of staying together, even though they both knew that it wasn't working out and there wasn't a way to fix it, it's only ever gotten more and more toxic. It's only ever gotten worse and worse. And it sucks that it didn't work out. It absolutely is brutal and devastating for one of those relationships, especially such an important one, like a marriage with kids, to separate. But I genuinely think it would have been worse for those people in the general case most of the time, not even knowing your parents, just based on what I've experienced myself. It probably would have been worse for them to have tried to stay together in a relationship that they don't want to be in. I think they're both going to be happier. They're going to treat each other better. They're going to treat you better if they do end up going their separate ways. And thinking about the imbalanced situation, something that's really important to remember about that is that if one party out of the 2 doesn't want the relationship, that relationship is not good for either party. It doesn't matter that the one would be okay if the other would agree to it. As soon as one person says no, you don't want to be there, because that other person isn't going to be giving you what you're looking for in that relationship. So you can often stay friends with your exes even after a breakup. It doesn't, like I've said before, it doesn't have to be burning a bridge completely. Obviously, in a situation where it's a marriage with kids, you're at least going to probably keep in touch with the kids most of the time. So it's going to be useful for the 2 of you to at least get along to some cordial degree. And it can also help a lot to stay friends with your ex, because now, let's say you share a friend group, because, you 2 were always going everywhere together. You knew a lot of the same people. Now you don't have to split the friend group if you guys can be cordial with each other, if you guys can be in the same room and not be at each other's throats. If you are causing problems with each other, then you might have to hang out with the people from that friend group at different times from them and kind of play that dance, and that can be hard. So it's definitely better to try and be cordial about it, and not to just, go total war on them. But like I said, I learned this, I think, the very first relationship I ever had when I was 13. And the night I got broken up with, I drafted this letter asking for her to take me back. And in the morning, I realized that I regretted ever writing it, and that it would not make things better because she didn't want to be there. And so from then on, it's just been, nope, break up. Nothing you can do about it. It was the best possible outcome. Okay, there's an old saying that's a little bit vulgar, but I will repeat it. It is, the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. Now, I don't completely agree with every possible interpretation of that, because the rebound exists. The rebound is someone that you get into a relationship with very quickly after your relationship ends, because you're trying to fill the void that was left by the person that you used to have. And those are often a problem because when looking at that new person, you're not being as discerning about who you're trying to end up with. You're just like, hey, you're a warm body and you'll, smooch me. Come and smooch me, please, because I don't want to feel things. And that can lead to a pretty unhealthy relationship with that person. So be careful of that sort of idea. But generally, if you're trying to get over someone, you've got to move on to something else. You cannot sit and wallow in those feelings. You can't just find yourself going back to the feelings about that ex over and over and over again and only ever thinking about that. You've got to find something else to think about. Give yourself new experiences so that you grow as a person, you learn, you become different, you grow past it. And then a couple years later, when you look back at that situation, first of all, you have new perspective and maybe you can think about it more reliably with a better outlook on it. Second of all, you won't feel as bad about it because now you'll have something else that you did in the meantime that was keeping you distracted from it. Just adjust to a new normal. Be in a different place. And your new normal might include the way that you have to see that person. Maybe what this means is that this person that you used to see as, apple of my eye, love of my life, whatever mushy stuff you want to say, and now they're back to just being Carol from accounting or whatever. Your friend that you have a history with, but that now we're just on casually chatting terms, and that's about as far as we go. You've got to adjust to that. You've got to be able to adapt to the new way that the world is. You've got to fill the void with new experiences. Even if those experiences aren't necessarily romantic. Stay busy. This is actually really good advice for getting over other kinds of tragedy. One of the things that I learned from being in a school is that when a significant tragedy happens in the community, like situation where maybe a student passes away or something, one of the best things for that is actually to come to school the next day, because the kids can just get their heads in their books, have something else to think about than to sit and wallow in their grief and their sadness. They can learn to try and live in this new world where something has been shaken drastically, but life goes on. I think that in a lot of ways, a breakup can be a grieving process. You're getting over the loss of that relationship. So stay busy. That can be a good way to help you move on to the next thing. Okay. Man, I was worried that I was going to take 5 hours to get through all of that, but this has been a pretty well-timed thing so far. We've made it to the questions that I am going to address directly. Is this going to be on a VOD on YouTube? I definitely will be uploading it in some form. I am currently recording it so that I can get it up there, because on Twitch it will go off eventually. Twitch, I think it'll be there for like a week or something. I want to just leave it on Twitch for a little bit so that if I look back on something and go, you know what, I don't like the way I represented that, I'm going to keep that out of the VOD that I put up permanently, that I can do that. But I don't know. Maybe I just reflect on this afterward. I don't know. I'm conflicted. Because part of my thought was, hey, maybe this can just be the content that I upload for tomorrow. Because, it's timely with Valentine's Day. I don't know. We'll see. But it will definitely be uploaded in long form at some point, and in the meantime, you will at least have the version on Twitch that you can go and see. But questions from the Google forum. So I've answered a number of these already. I've addressed a number of these already word for word. Some of these questions I am going to also address word for word. Some of them I am going to paraphrase for the sake of maybe protecting personal information, making it so that a person can't be identified when they're in a compromising situation, just to try and get to the gist of it more quickly. But first one, and this is a really important one here, this is paraphrased, so this is not word for word, but they say, my partner threatens to reveal my real name online against my will and spam report me to get me banned from the game I like playing if I break up with them. What do I do? This is blackmail. This is abusive. And I do not mean abusive lightly. That is a word that has a legal definition. Okay, that's a very serious thing to accuse someone of. but that is what's being described right here. If you are listening right now and you still need help with this, I would be willing to take DMs about this. There are some things that I would suggest, but I would also not like for the person who is doing this to you to see this and kind of anticipate what it is you're going to try and respond with. This is something to go to authority figures about. This is something to tell your parents about. This is something, if you can, tell their parents about. This is not okay. You get out of this relationship. The way that happens, you might want to do a little bit more carefully, but this is a hard stop. Absolutely not okay. If this is ever happening to anybody, unacceptable. Okay, that skipped one. There we go. Sometimes it double clicks and I don't get it. So this was also something that I got from the questionnaire. For whoever it was out there, I think I know who this is, because there was someone in particular that I was talking to, I think more than anybody else, at the Riptide Swim Up bar. First of all, thank you. This is very flattering. Second of all, I apologize for dipping out of there so quickly. People were starting to get a little bit drunk and rowdy, and the drinks were a little too expensive for me to want to get that drunk, and also I'm not particularly interested in getting that drunk when some member of my audience can see me at a Splatoon event. I do have appearances to keep up as the teacher and all of that, but again, very flattering. Super sorry that this was a missed connection. If you're going to be at Genesis, definitely, tap me on the shoulder. Let's say hi. Did I have anything more to say about that? No, I don't think so. That made me very happy, though. Next up, there was another significant bucket of questions that we got on the Google form. It was basically like Arrow Ace people that were like looking at all the romantic people and like poking at the walls of our fish tanks, being like, what are they doing? They're so weird. I don't get it. I think it was really endearing. So this particular question, what does romantic love feel like? As someone who is Arrow Ace, I've always been curious if it's anything like platonic love or something else entirely. This is a really lovely thing to think about. Like, it makes me happy just thinking about it. So there are definitely some similarities. I feel like, obviously the physical attraction element kind of bleeds into it a little bit, but basically, like, this person, you want to give them a hug, but then it's like, even hugging them, literally being physically wrapped around them, just isn't close enough. You just want to be even closer to this person. You want to, like, just know them inside and out. You want to share yourself with them. You want to just, like, mold and become the one unit or something like that. You want them to know everything about you and you to know everything about them, and they're just endlessly interesting to you. You could spend hours saying nothing together and still feel comfortable with each other. Man, is it a trip. It is a powerful, powerful drug. It's the kind of thing where you would just unthinkingly give your life for the person. Where they're just important. You want everyone to recognize how important they are. When they're doing something, you want everybody to see it because you're like, oh my God, this is such a good thing. Look at this thing that they did. It's cool because they made it, but also because it's good. Also because they made it and they're them. And that's beautiful. Obviously there's the element of physical attraction. So I guess if you're asking what sexual attraction is like and what physically happens to the body while that's happening, I don't want to go into that too deeply, honestly, because I've kept the kinds of sex ed kind of questions off the stream so far. I don't want to get too far into that right now, but I hope that gave you at least something of an idea. That probably sounds a lot like platonic love, but also that physical closeness that bleeds into other more physical carnal feelings. And you can when you can express those through your sexuality, oh my goodness, is that like a borderline spiritual kind of feeling. So hopefully that has been at least a little helpful. I don't know. This one was very specific, and there's a lot of layers here. Is it okay to date a supporter on Ko-fi or Patreon when I have never met them outside of that? There are a lot of potential problems with this. And then there's also a world where this is probably okay. So think about the situation where you're in a bar and someone buys you a drink, and that's their way of creating propinquity to talk to you. Like, you know, you don't want to assume that someone just automatically wants to talk to you, but when they take the effort to reach out and say, you know, here, I'm buying you a drink, that's signaling that I want to talk to you. Now we've matched +1. We've gone up a level of intimacy from what we had before. And so it depends on how this like Patreon support and Ko-fi support comes across. If this is someone who is like, hey, I really like, you know, your vibe. I think we'd get along. I'd like to get to know you more. And they drop you a little like, you know, $5 donation or something just to show their support of you. I could see that being sort of like them buying you a drink. But it sounds to me like you're defining them by their support of you on Ko-fi or Patreon. This sounds more like a parasocial relationship. This sounds more like they know more about you from, you know, whatever it is you're making. I'm assuming you're like a content creator or something, maybe not. But I assume that like they know more about you because they're a fan of you than you know about them. The dynamic with a fan is really important to understand before you make a decision like this. Because a fan is not a friend. There is a difference. There's someone who is a very good friend, and I mean specifically friend of mine, who has been extremely helpful to me, who their thing is that they can just kind of approach anyone and not come across as a fan. Like, they're really good at that. There was a famous band that I've actually seen tour through in a concert once, where this friend of mine was just like, hey, so you want to go meet the lead singer? To their partner. And their partner was like, what, you know him? And they were like, no, but you want to go meet him? And that was kind of the approach that they took. They just walked up, told a story, and got the guy invested in the story, got the rest of the band invested in the story. They were talking. They were friends now. That's the sort of interaction that you want to have with someone that you're going to get close to. But if someone's more along the lines of, oh my gosh, I've memorized all of her videos and I'm going to tier 3 sub so that they will notice me. Like, that's a caricature, but that is also definitely a thing that happens. And that's probably not a healthy starting point for a relationship. There's probably a bit of a power imbalance. And there's also just a little bit of a weird disconnect in terms of how much information you both have. Because, like, they know personal things about you, and so they're going to be able to be pigeons and peck the buttons to get what they want a lot easier because they know more about you than you know about them. So there are a lot of unhealthy dynamics that can develop out of that. I need more context, and I'd need like very, very specific context, I think, to really be able to say for sure, but I'd be very careful about this. Okay. Does love at first sight actually exist? I am told by there was someone in one of those like Wired videos, I think, like expert talks about such and such a thing. There was someone who had studied love for like decades, and her response to that question was yes, it can happen. So apparently so. It has not happened to me before, but apparently it's out there and it's just pretty rare. Okay, let me remind myself about this question. What do I do when I think someone likes me and I don't like them back, but I'm not sure? All my friends say they can read this person's crush on me, and they buy me a lot of things and have been my friend. How do I find out so I can ask them to tone it down if it's romantic? If it's friendly, I don't mind. I just don't want them to try and flatter someone that doesn't like them. Seems a bit cruel not to say something if that's why, but I don't want to assume and look like a weirdo. First of all, I really appreciate that you are considering their feelings here and trying to think about, like, I don't want to lead this person on. There are some people who might let this person keep doing things for them, maybe because they like the attention. And I appreciate that you're looking for a way to not be doing that. That's really good to the other person. To the question. First of all, if you're saying all my friends say they can read this person's crush on me, if those are mutual friends, have you told the friends that that's not the way you feel? Because maybe the message gets to this person through those friends and you never actually even have to have a confrontation at all. This is especially helpful in those kinds of like middle school or high school situations where like everyone's poking you like, hey, who do you like? Do you have a crush on them? Do you have a crush on them? Who do you like? Like if you just tell them, well, no, I don't like them, they're probably going to tell the other person at some point. I found out that the first girlfriend I ever had a crush on me because her friend just directly told me in a DM, hey, my friend likes you. And I figured it out from there. Sometimes, that can be a thing that you can take advantage of. Sometimes the friends knowing about it isn't necessarily a bad thing. But let's assume that you're not sure. You have to have this confrontation. You have to talk to this person. First of all, one other way you could tell before you have to talk to this person, I forgot that bit, is consider whether they do this for other people. Like, if they don't give their other friends gifts, like maybe even ask their friends, like, hey, is this normal for them? Like, is this something that they just do for everyone, or are they actually like hitting on me? That would be a way that you could try and figure it out, because their friends would probably know. They'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's not a thing I've ever seen them do before. They must like you. So that's one way you could think about it. But even if that doesn't work, and you actually have to have this conversation up front, you could, again, just approach it like we talked about way back when we talked about rejection, with the Dr. K idea. Like, hey, I really appreciate all of these things you've been doing for me. Genuinely. Like, I like you. I do. I just feel like it almost seems like this is something that you would do for a romantic partner. And I don't want to like lead you on and make you feel like that's where this is going. And if that's what you've been wanting, I'm so sorry, but like I don't feel the same way. There's your script. That's about how I'd go about it. And it might hurt a little bit, but you're layering it in a lot of tact, and you're also keeping the door open for that friendship to continue if that's something that they still want after the fact. Good question. Okay. If, hypothetically speaking, I were to tell my ex that I miss them, what would happen? Probably nothing good. Usually the answer to that is don't text your ex at 1 a.m. Don't ask for them back. You will probably regret it later on. It will probably make things only more awkward and make it more difficult for you to kind of get back to it. So I would recommend just not doing that and trying to deal with the feelings that you have. Now, there may be a situation where they're receptive to, if you're you're still really good friends with this person to the point where you are willing to disclose your very deep, vulnerable emotions to them, like I still am with some of my exes. There is a world where you can legitimately just say, yeah, I'm still getting over my feelings for you, but don't worry too much about it. That's my thing. I have said that. That is a thing that I have said to someone, that I am working on getting over them. And that may seem like kind of a radical place to get, but again, if you're able to keep things okay with your exes, that sort of thing does become possible sometimes. And it's very valuable to have someone who is in that exact position, who knows you that well, to bounce ideas off and talk to. So I wouldn't rule it out completely if, like, you're that comfy with them. Most of the time people are not, and most of the time this is a bad idea. Is it bad to like a girl at 14, and how do I deal with it being a girl? no, it is not bad to like a girl at all. Okay, maybe if you're like, maybe if there's like an age gap and you're like way older and you're like a woman and they're a girl, that's not the case, obviously. It's not bad that you like girls at all. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they are wrong. How do I deal with it? Depends on a lot of factors. First of all, is this something that you would experience like discrimination for expressing? Like this is generally becoming more and more accepted, but there are still some places where it might not be safe to express that you want a homosexual relationship. And so first evaluate that to make sure that you're not, outing someone or making it dangerous by pursuing something like this. But assuming that that's out of the question, first question is like, do they like you back? So I guess the question before that is, are they also into girls? And it's like 13 or 14. Like I think the age might be part of this question. I had my first relationship when I was 13. I was one of the first in my school to get into a long-term romantic relationship, but we did, reach that point. And I mean, I did learn a lot from that, and it worked as well as I would expect any middle school relationship to work. We stayed together for a lot longer than I expected a middle school relationship to work. And like I said, I learned a lot from it, and I highly value that experience that I got. So it's totally cool to go and pursue that sort of a thing. This is right at about the age where people go for that. You just need to kind of pick up on, would that be reciprocated? Where do you go from there? Kind of have a plan and kind of get the information you need and then proceed based on that information. So hopefully the rest of this presentation has been helpful to you. How do you balance out the love teammate relationship with someone if you're on the same comp team as them? So we actually did bring this back to Splatoon in an interesting and successful way. How do you treat them to not show bias toward them during, say, a VOD review session or team-related things? Or should it be biased? I'm not sure. One of my favorite videos of a couple dynamic was there are these two pool players, two billiards players. And it just so happens that in the tournament that they were playing in, they were put up against each other and they were married. So what happens there, which is, I think, a great microcosm for how this should look, is at the beginning where you would traditionally walk over to your opponent and shake their hand, let's have a good game here. They instead walked up to each other and kissed each other on the lips for a few seconds, smiled at each other, and then they went and played a game of billiards, and they tried their hardest to beat each other and to advance in the tournament. That's super sick. That's kind of the way that you want to go about it, that like you acknowledge that you care about each other, but also that when it comes to this thing, it's all business, and we're going to treat each other in the way that is most conducive to that business being conducted. So hopefully that gives you something of an idea. Generally, I would say, like, don't take their side just because they're your spouse or whoever. Take their side if you agree with them. And if you don't agree with them, again, going back to conflict management techniques, say it tactfully but honestly. Okay. This one I'm going to just kind of give you the basic gist here. A couple of 15-year-olds live in different countries, but they've been dating online for 3 months, and they've known each other since they were 5 years old. Now, one of them wants to go out of country to university, and the other one is going to stay in country for university, and one is wondering, okay, do I actually go out of country, or do I stay here to pursue this relationship? One detail also worth noting is that the partner has told them to go out of country to their dream university instead. They're worried that if they do that, that will break up the relationship. They'll both lose interest. I'm going to say that given just this information, and obviously there's so much more context that could obviously flip me one way or the other, I'm leaning towards telling you to go out of country to your university. First of all, it's something that they've told you that they want you to do. They want that for you. Secondly, you're going to be a different person by the time you're out of university, frankly. Like, think about who you were when you were 11. You're 15 now, 4 years. Think about who you were when you were 11. Think about how dumb you felt you were. You feel that you were then. Every 4 years, a human being looks back at what they were 4 years ago and goes, wow, I was really stupid back then. That's just a regular cycle that keeps happening as we keep learning. 4 years from now, you will look back at yourself and be like, wow, I do not think that the way that I used to back then. And you know what? If this relationship really is as strong and important to you that you would want to keep it up, maybe going out of country will help you realize that. But my hunch is that getting outside of your bubble, getting out and meeting more people, you will probably realize that, first of all, you have other options than just this one person. Second of all, that there are other people who might actually be a better fit for you. So I would lean more in the direction of suggesting that. A lot of these relationships where people try to keep up a long distance relationship across like the people separating for college, very few of those actually tend to last in my experience with it. I did know one. There was one group of people who I knew who were a couple. They met and started dating in freshman year, were still together in senior year, which is an insane amount of time for a high school relationship. Like, again, lots of personal development is happening during that time. And they've stayed together, and it was something like, oh God, I think like 10 years after they got out of high school that they finally actually got married. They took it really, really slow. They made sure that that was actually what they wanted to do before they ever committed to it. And I think they're, a great model of how to behave there. That like, you've still got that person in your life. It's not like you need things to be committed and rushed. You can take your time. You have a little bit of time to figure it out. But yeah, that's my initial thought. There's so much context here, and yet still so much that I would need to know to really be able to say for sure. But I'd say probably go to that university is my take on your concern, which is ultimately your decision and that you will have to make in the way that's best for you. How does one properly help a partner when they are in a rough patch? So mental health issues is what I'm interpreting this as, or, maybe substance abuse. I guess that's a mental health issue too. So this is difficult. This is a situation that will strain the relationship a lot of the time. Something that you want to watch out for is something called codependency. When someone's going through something like a substance abuse issue and they just need a disproportionate amount of help to what they can provide back to their partner, a lot of the time in the person who's giving that help, in the partner who is helping the other recover, they develop a very specific set of psychological issues, things that can cause harm to themselves in that relationship. So be in touch with, your friends and see, hey, does it seem like I'm doing worse than I was before? Again, keep that journal if you can, so that you can keep track of like, how am I holding up? Am I still in a good state of mind to be helping with this? Recognize that you are a human being. You are a physical sack of meat, and you can only do so much physically before the stress causes you, physical harm. Our emotions and our bodies are more attached than I think people like to recognize sometimes. That like, we can give ourselves illnesses psychologically. And I'm talking like physical ailments. Like, we can give ourselves pain by just being too stressed out or something. And you need to be aware of where that point is for you, where it's too much and you need some kind of space, some kind of way to step away, some relief. If it goes too far, that can become a toxic relationship that's not helpful to either of you. So be in touch with a therapist, I would say, if you can be, and make sure that you're keeping tabs on your own mental health as you go through all of that. Hi, I'm aromantic. What should I do for Valentine's Day? Whatever you feel like, man. Like, I don't know. Like, Valentine's Day doesn't have to be this big thing. I think a lot of people make it out to be a big thing and, like, maybe feel a little bit of FOMO when they don't have anything to do about it. But, man, like, I'm not seeing anyone right now, and I'm probably just gonna be sitting in my room making videos because Genesis is coming up and I need to schedule those things in advance, and they're not gonna make themselves. And also, on the same token, you know, the flip side of that coin, if you're with someone, every day can be Valentine's Day. You don't have to just express your affection for them one day out of the year. Give them a random heart-shaped box of chocolates on November 12th. Why not? Right? What? Why on earth not? It'll be cute. They'll like it. They'll probably like it more than the obligatory box of chocolates they get on Valentine's Day. So, anyway, yeah, don't make such a big deal of Valentine's Day. Remember that it is a capitalist structure. Capitalist institution. This one was really interesting, and this is a bizarre thing to consider. I only have some ideas from imagination, but they ask, how would you suggest approaching dating in a college environment with a wild gender imbalance? 1090 is crazy. That one, say, man for every 9 women at a college? That's insane. While you're in the minority group. Now, a lot of people would probably look at that and be like, oh my God, you are so lucky. You are the luckiest. They're going to call you names for this. They're going to be mad. Because, like, a buddy of mine lived on an island, a pretty remote island with not a lot of people on it for a while. And he talked about the island curve for attractiveness. Take that out of 10 scale, and the fact that they are a person your orientation is compatible with, who is there on that island with you. They might have been a 6, in a big city, but they are a 9 now because they're about all you got. And I feel like that's what's probably going to happen to this minority of people. They are going to be in very high demand because, like, where else is everyone going to go to date people? That's their dating pool, and it's very small. So, in a sense, you're going to get a lot of attention. But that's not necessarily always the best thing either, because you got to think, like we said earlier, you're not looking to have everyone in the world be attracted to you. You're looking for the one correct person to be attracted to you. Like, you want one person to be madly in love with you and for nobody else to even find you attractive. That would be like the perfect world, because then you just get to be with that person and you never have to deal with the, errant affections of somebody else who is not going to be with you. Never have to deal with that situation. That's what you'd rather have. And so this is going to be like an attractive woman on a dating app where you're just flooded with so many messages that it's mentally taxing just to even deal with them all. Like, typically on dating apps, my understanding is that, like, honestly, this is really just kind of gender roles in general, heteronormative gender roles. But the rule of thumb is that for the guy, any attention from a woman is like a drop of water in the desert. Like, oh my God, does that water taste good? And please give me more of it. For the woman, the attention is like having a bucket of water dumped on your head underneath your umbrella during a rainstorm. It's like, oh my God, I was trying to get away from this. Stop. The different wants there depending on how much attention each of the parties is getting. And both of those are not particularly fun situations to be in. You'd rather it be a little bit more equivalent. But that's just kind of the way that the apps tend to be designed and the way that the gender roles tend to go. If the man is expected to be the initiator, then, you know, the man's not going to get a lot of attention, and the woman is going to get a lot of attention. Which kind of, again, I don't know which gender you're even a part of here. But side note that I forgot to put into this PowerPoint, but that I might as well mention now. There was a very silly tweet that I saw a while back that I thought was very silly, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, oh god, wait, this is actually such a good idea. So all that stuff that I was talking about with, you know, the gender role, the man is the initiator. Something that tends to come up is that men think that women, again, all speaking very heteronormatively, and I do apologize for that, but it is a way that I can make generalizations that I think will apply to a lot of people. And maybe you can take the lesson out of this anyway and apply it to whatever situation you're in. But men in general, I think, they follow the golden rule a lot of the time, the golden rule being do unto others as you would have them do to you, and they want someone to pay attention to them. Good God. You, as an attractive woman, give a man a compliment, he will ride that high for a month. That is, he's never going to forget that. That's just going to go into his memory forever. Give an attractive woman a compliment, you know, you're just walking down the street or something, and she's going to be so sick of this. Oh my God. She's going to be like, I just want to walk from my house to my work without being bothered. Like that might be a place that she's actually in based on the amount of attention that she gets. Women get very, very good, I've noticed, at curving men. That is, showing through body language well before any interaction can possibly develop that would give her, you know, take away more emotional energy from her. Just showing, nope, that's not going to happen right now. You're not going to talk to me. I'm looking down, I'm looking away, I'm looking at my phone, and I'm doing that right at the exact moments that you would be making eye contact with me so that this does not occur. And I think a lot of men just, again, golden rule instead of the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would have you do to them, which is, in my experience, a much more successful way to approach things. So I think a lot of men try to shower a ton of attention on women, thinking like, that would feel really good if someone did that to me. So, women, if you want a man to understand why, for example, giving a random stranger a compliment on the street can be called catcalling and be called even harassment at times. And sometimes it is harassment. Sometimes it is genuinely just to make the woman feel uncomfortable. But sometimes I think men may not really understand that giving that compliment that they think is genuine and they mean might come across the wrong way. The tweet reads, and this is, I think, from a gay guy, said, all right, look, yeah, it's a problem that we over-sexualize women all the time and that they're just constantly sexualized. Here's what I want to see, though. Why don't we sexualize the men? And haha funny, because, you know, the premise of the joke is not solving any of the actual problems, but, hi, I actually like men, please show me more of them, thank you. And that's funny. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, wait, that you might be onto something. Because, like, if a man were to actually experience, for example, the discomfort of being catcalled, or at least even just being hit on by someone that they weren't 100% into, I feel like they'd have a lot more empathy for that situation. I feel like they'd get it. And then they'd also, again, men are so receptive, again, heteronormative, etc., to getting attention from a woman, because that's the reverse of the way it usually goes. So it's like, wow, she went and stuck her neck out for me? She must really like me. And that's going to go over super duper well. Like, women have the ability, I think, to just go and they see a man they like, say so. I think he's probably going to take that well, and that's probably going to be good for him as a person. Like, I don't see a downside to that. Just why not? Go for it. Anyway, back to the gender imbalance question. What I would say to do, if you're getting way more attention and that's kind of overwhelming, is kind of make sure you have friends of the same gender and band together a little bit and, you know, share information, swap stories, talk about those things, like air it all out so that you have a support group of each other and you don't feel overwhelmed by people who are trying to smooch you all the time. Because that can be a lot. And I've always found that in groups where specifically women are minorities, like the Smash community was one of these places, there was always a group chat somewhere where all the ladies went to just be relieved of, you know, all of that attention, to be somewhere where everybody else just kind of gets it and they don't have to explain themselves all the time over and over again. Because that can be exhausting. Have those people in your corner so that you've got some relief and you've got a safety net if things are getting a little bit too much. As a teacher, do you notice your students in love, or if one has a crush? If so, how obvious is it? I am a little bit different than some teachers in that I go out of my way to avoid that information. The way that I see it as a male teacher, they're either going to see you as their older brother or their dad. Those are the two kind of male adult relationships that a kid is likely to be familiar with. You're going to fit into one of those two boxes. And I solidly try to end up in the dad category, and I'm not trying to find out. I'm not trying to find out who has a crush on who. I'm not trying to be a part of the gossip. I'm trying to be a stern authority figure who is taking their attention away from that thing and drawing it to the thing that I want them to pay attention to. So I don't get as much of that information as I probably could. There are a bunch of kids who would always come into my classroom, you know, during lunch and try to hang out and try to talk with me. And sometimes I'd entertain those kinds of conversations, just hear what was going on with them and let them be in a place that felt comfy for them. But unless they came out with it explicitly, I tended not to even... I feel like if I were to even see it, I would ignore it deliberately and forget that it happened, because I don't want to be seen looking at that. I don't want to be seen, you know, I don't want to cause a commotion in the classroom when I look for a second and then everyone's eyes follow mine and they go, ooh, Bobby likes Tina. Ooh, and that's a disruption that I have to deal with for the next 45 seconds of my life, and I don't like that. So, I think I could probably know more, but students will definitely just sometimes tell you. One time when I was student teaching, it was like a 9th grade classroom, and I'm like probably like 19, 20 or something, so I'm definitely older than them, but I also look like I could be in high school. One of them, I'm walking down the row, this guy on my left, a girl on my right, guy just gets my attention and goes, "She likes you," and just looks straight at the girl to my right. And the girl, you can tell her face is blank, but you can tell that in the back of her head, just everything is melting down like, oh my God, my life is over. So sometimes they'll tell you, you know, and sometimes you'll find out in ways you didn't even anticipate. And what I did was I turned to the guy and I was like, "Did she ask you to tell me that?" He goes, "So why are you telling me that?" And he didn't have an answer for that, and I kept walking. Okay, this is another paraphrase here. 2 years ago, this is a high schooler, was dating someone who had a physical disability and was helping them with that. They dated for 3 months, and then here's the part that I'm quoting because I think the wording here might be important for context's sake. "I was not being a good enough person to be with her," among other serious issues. This is stuff that was happening in the background, like one of them had depression and there was a serious tragedy recently. So I broke up with her. And this person was shamed for breaking up by friends of both parties, all of them, quote, all of them saying, "I'm a horrible person who should never be trusted near a woman again." Are these people right? I believed them for years, haven't considered dating again, but I want an outside opinion from someone who doesn't know who I am. First of all, regardless of whether that decision that you made was the right one, that is a really hard situation to be in. First of all, there's a lot going on in your life that is traumatic, that is difficult to deal with. And it sounds like there's this element of responsibility in this relationship, that like you feel like she needs you. I think it was she? Yeah, she. You feel like she needs you to help her. But that also, it became too much for you to deal with for some reason. First of all, I'm a horrible person who should never be trusted near a woman again. I just don't think that's fair to yourself. I don't believe in calling someone a bad person. I believe in calling the things that someone does bad. And if someone has a pattern of particularly problematic behavior, that might be something that causes me to avoid someone. But I'm never going to call someone a bad person. I'm not going to say that they're rotten to the core, that nothing good will ever come from them, because people are complicated. People do good things and bad things. And yeah, there are some people who do such heinous things that you can't overlook those, but I don't think this makes you one of them. I think that even if this was a mistake, even if this was you kind of caving under pressure and like failing someone when they needed you, I don't think that you should tell yourself that you're just going to be unlovable forever. Especially like 2 years from now, I think this was someone in high school. Yeah, you have grown substantially as a person in that time. 2 years in high school is forever. Like 2 years in high school is like the same amount of development I would expect someone to get from like age like 19 to age 25 or something. Like it is a big jump between those 2 years, because people, they develop more when they're younger, and then it slows down as they get older. So you need to find a way to forgive yourself at some point in time. Even if you acknowledge that something you did was actually wrong here, there's got to be a way forward. You can't just say, nope, never ever again will I ever woman. No woman for me. Like, it sounds like you have a lot of remorse for this. And you saw the consequences of what happened. And I think that you'll get to a point where you can weigh the consequences of what happened with the choice you made and decide whether it was right. I can't make that decision for you because I just don't have all of the context. Granted, I've got a lot of context, but it's not enough for me to really be able to say, like, why was it really emotionally deeply that you felt like you needed to break up with her? Like, felt I wasn't being a good enough person for her? Does that mean that they needed more from you than you could healthily provide? That it was just draining you too much and you couldn't manage that and you felt guilty for not being able to handle it, but it wasn't what you wanted, it wasn't fulfilling your emotional needs? That's totally understandable. But that's one interpretation of what I'm seeing here. So I don't know exactly what the cause of that was, but I really do hope that you find peace with it and that you can find it within yourself to put yourself out there again, because it sounds like you've been through a lot, and I wish you all the best. What do you do if people around you are pressing you to get a partner, but you don't like anyone? I mean, if you want to find someone, then, you know, put yourself out there, go try to find someone. Like, if the problem is just you don't like anyone that's currently available, well, go find other people. That's the solution to that problem. But if really what it is that you're being asked to pursue someone beyond how interested you are in pursuing someone, well, then who cares what they think? Like, you know what makes you happy, so do what makes you happy. It's your life to live, not theirs. And granted, you know, in these kinds of situations, a lot of the time, these people are at least well-meaning and often have a good point that, like, they think you will be happier if you find someone. And you know what? Maybe going and finding someone is the best idea, and they do have the right general idea to push you in that direction. But if it's becoming frustrating, if it's becoming annoying, if it's giving you insecurities, like, stop pressuring me. I feel like I'm failing because you keep telling me I need to do this, and it's not panning out for me. If that's the sort of situation this is getting to, have a conversation with those people, just an adult conversation like, hey, I appreciate that you're trying to, you know, get me to do what's best for me here, but like, I'm really starting to feel down because you're doing this to me. Like, please just cut me a little bit of slack here. Give me a break. Another one that has to do with being with someone in the Splatoon community. Another piece of proof that proximity, propinquity, are some of the best predictors of whether you end up in a relationship with someone. Things we have in common. Both comp Splatoon players, she is a much higher division than me. So higher skilled player on a higher level team. We never get to play in anything together, and that sucks. Especially when I see other comp couples on the same team are doing pickups together. Any advice? It's making me feel envious of those couples. I'm starting to burn myself out trying to catch up. That is really tough, and I'm sorry that that's the case. It especially sucks because being in a higher division, that probably means that she is practicing more, and maybe more than you're interested in practicing. So that takes time away from what you can participate with her in. If they're not willing to maybe spend some casual time playing the game with you, I would say definitely try to find another activity that the two of you can enjoy together. Obviously, you know, it's one of your hobbies each, and you can connect a lot about it. But if maybe like you need to spend more time with her than you really have, that could be something that you have to have a serious conversation about in the relationship. Like, hey, these are my needs, emotionally speaking, and they're not being met right now. What kind of compromise can we come to arrive at a better conclusion to this? Because, like, I love this game. I know you love this game, and we both play it, but I also just don't see myself getting up to your level anytime soon. We can't play together. And it hurts that, like, I can't be with you in this way. I wouldn't say look at, like, other comp couples on the same team too much and try to, like, worry about that, because that's just the grass is greener on the other side kind of stuff going on. Like, you're always going to see some couple that looks happier than you. But, like, at some point there's got to be a communication if it's getting too bad there. Hi, Squid School. My I go by Jim, but hi. My partner tilts very easily whenever we play multiplayer games. They usually end up complaining. It ends up ruining the mood of whoever we're playing with, and it's difficult to enjoy that time I spend with them. What could I do in this situation or say to them to make it not so strenuous to play games with them? This is going to be a hard case of you need to be able to set boundaries and communicate without sugarcoating too much what you need, because this behavior is definitely not great. It's going to make things uncomfortable for you and other people, and not just them. And it's not healthy for them either. So I'm fully on board with you just having a direct conversation like, hey, I'm not cool with the way that you treated, you know, so-and-so when we were playing with them. That made them really uncomfortable. We need to work on figuring out how to make that stop. And maybe that's a difficult process for them. Maybe that means that they even like go and take an anger management class or go to therapy or something to get to where that's not a habit that they have. But like, I would say that like you're in the right there. I wouldn't want a partner to be doing that either. That would make it uncomfortable for me too. And I would just have an adult conversation with them and say, I want that to stop. Please try to make an effort for me, for my sake, not to do that when we play. Try to be more positive. And, you know, maybe try and find models for how they can speak more positively. There are a lot of different tools out there, both in the psychology world, and I mean, I've made some videos on that sort of thing. Maybe one of those is helpful. But I would definitely be confrontational about that. If not, again, tactfully confrontational. Be confrontational. Be willing to stand up for yourself on that. All right. And finally, scientists found a fossilized bone from an organism in a deep layer of rock. When they took the bone back to the lab, they realized that the bone had only 12.5% of the total carbon-14 left. Based on the amount of carbon-14 left in the bone, how old is the bone? Hint, the half-life of carbon-14 is 5,730 years. Who's got it, chat? All right, excellent. Serial Bull got it first. They are the expert at carbon dating. I didn't write this. Somebody else wrote it for me, but I thought it was funny, and I appreciated it. All right. We did it, everybody. We actually made it all the way through the PowerPoint. This has been exclusively dating advice. Thank you, everybody, for watching through this. This is obviously a lot more personal of a project than I've done in a long time. And I hope that you found it to be helpful. I hope that it was something that you feel was spreading valuable information. If there was anything that I said that you think might be harmful, if there was anything that I said that you think I might have a misconception about, I'm happy to hear about that. Feel free to reach out in whatever way. I'm happy to cut that part out of the VOD that goes up on YouTube, because this is a very important topic and I want to get things right. But I do feel pretty confident in the vast majority of what I was saying today. That represents my experience with the world and how to best interact with it. And I hope that it has helped y'all, if not to solve all your problems, then at least to not run into the same problems that I have run into in my time trying to find someone to smooch. Thanks again, everybody, and happy Valentine's Day.